Disclaimer. Topics and ideas discussed here may or may not be what we believe or accept. These are attempts to have rational discussions of presented facts and information from various perspectives to challenge ideas for authenticity and understanding. Forming an opinion for yourself is what matters. Hello! Welcome to the QBrew podcast. I am Q. My friends call me Q. And we also have this guy over here.
I'm Brewer the Greater. Everyone just calls me Brewer. Keep it simple. Yeah.
So this is episode 1. We're calling it Hello World just because, if you're in the programming world like Brewer is, I think you'd get the funny. But this is something that just kind of happened, something that we just kind of wanted to do. We want to have some conversations about stuff that's going on in the world, stuff that affects us, stuff that affects you, so we can develop the conversation, so we can grow closer to each other like my name suggests. I want a community. Let's look out for each other, and let's not be afraid of shying away from difficult conversations and, figuring out why we disagree, to allow that to serve as the platform for us to come closer together. I don't really have too much of a background. I'm just a cute little fox. I play video games on stream. I was in the military. But outside of that, I just do game demos now, and I'm really excited to go on this adventure with Brewer.
I'm Brewer. I'm a medically retired software engineer. I have a 100% disability from the VA. And because of that, I can't really work in the corporate environment. So I decided to just start programming my own game. And people became interested in it, the people that I talked to. So I started streaming on Twitch and kind of just been doing that for a while now. So, yeah, I have a lot of background with a lot of geopolitical stuff, and I have a lot of personal opinions about various topics that some people will agree or disagree with, which kind of the reasons why I wanted to do this with Q after he approached me about it is because I definitely feel there's a discourse on the internet right now where there's really not a whole lot of authentic engagement between people because people are so scared to say something or do something in the fear of quote unquote being canceled. And instead of, stating any kind of public opinion, the kind of my general idea with this was to have a conversation from the perspective of the topic and not necessarily our individual opinion. There will be some bias, there will be some personal opinions that are thrown in there, of course, because we're human. There's nothing, there's nothing we can do about that.
No, you're
But at
perfect.
the same time,
Don't lie
yeah.
already. You're perfect. We know it. Okay.
No, come on now. Come on now. But yeah, that's kind of just talk about various topics and various things, and we'll go from there.
Okay, so I guess it kind of leads into how we found each other. And I'm going to start off with something super, super cheesy, and then we can kind of fill in some of the dots.
Boy.
Okay?
Here
Do
we
you
go.
remember? Wait, do you remember how we met?
Yes.
Okay, how'd we meet?
Ashes of Creation,
Mm-hmm.
part of then PirateSoftware's guild.
Mm-hmm.
And you were being chased by a mimic chest that was about to eat your face, and I was a tank. I pulled away the chest and kept you from dying, and we kind of just started chatting from there because we were trying to hunt for
Uh-huh.
treasure using the treasure maps.
Yep.
And then we kind of tried to help each other find the treasure because it was, of course, that's an alpha 2 at that point.
Yep.
It was not really working out too well. So
Honestly, it did because we teamed up after you totally saved me from that mimic. I was like it was trying to eat my face off, and actually I think that was like the one time I actually had a jump scare, and I was like, wait, I can't be jump scared. I was like, oh, what's this harmless little chest here? But yeah, we were looking for treasure maps, and you found yours, and I didn't. At least I didn't think that I did. Are you ready?
yeah,
Are you ready
that's kind
for
of
it? Are you ready for it?
okay. What are you doing?
You were the treasure that I found.
Oh, Jesus Christ, dude. Make me cringe over here.
I don't care. I mean it. Let's go.
I know.
So, speaking of, I guess it kind of ties into kind of like the first topic that we can discuss.
I sound muffled, it looks like, from what someone was saying in chat.
Thom said that, but we can see that. I mean, you're registering clearly in my ear, and all the audios seem fine for right now.
Okay, well, moving on.
Um, Pirate Software.
Here we go.
I know. I feel like we kinda like went on a journey kind of at the same time, and we found each other, and then that like without, I'd hate to say it, but without Pirate Software, I probably wouldn't have met you.
Yeah, 100%. And
Um,
that's actually kind of one of the things I was gonna touch on is, regardless of what you think of him and the whole current, situation he's in, has definitely brought a lot of people together and has done a lot of good. But um, you you can divorce, who he is now as an individual versus what he has done for others around him, even if it was, depending on your opinion or how you see the whole situation now, that he's maybe not as good as a person as he presents himself to be. But you
so
can divorce that from what good has occurred
okay,
overall.
so let's start with the beginning for me, and I
Yeah.
think that the Divergent is where I ended up as well, as far as like the different thought process around him. I I started off by just coming across his YouTube shorts.
Same.
I found them to be inspirational, motivational, and on some level, even for all of the other reasons that are bad or not good, I can appreciate that those kind of got me off of my butt and interested to take that first step. So
Mhm.
I can completely appreciate the content and the presentation that was there. And then I think that's where maybe I started down that journey of this person and all of his content. They're all the same. Like there's no grifting. It's all honest. So I can trust this person. I think for me, a lot of it was trying to find people that I could trust with good conversations and good takes, to
Yeah.
help inform myself because I just want to understand what's going on. Um,
Yeah. Well, my kind of whole thing, like, basically, found Thor the same way. It was just perusing YouTube, and this was during a point where I was not in the greatest of mental states, dealing with medical stuff and new diagnoses and stuff like that, and kind of came to the conclusion that I would not be able to re-enter the workforce because I ended up getting laid off from the company I've been working for a while because I was a work from home because of my medical stuff. I can't really work in an office environment
okay.
because I get too easily distracted, and it people were talking, slamming their heads on desks, or laughing super loud. Actually, sent causes a what I call a sciatic shock to go from the base of my skull through my entire body, and it's exceedingly painful. And it wears me out, and I couldn't concentrate at work, so I ended up working from home. And then when that company decided to basically, with the downswing of COVID, get rid of all the work from home, and I no longer worked in the state that I originally worked in. And it's because I moved to a small town, middle of nowhere, because it's actually affordable. And I wasn't able to find a job since then. And but yeah, but now because of what I saw Thor talking about, I think the biggest short that he ever had, and he was him talking about Blizzard, and
Did you know that he used to work at Blizzard?
yeah, it's like 7 years or something like that. I had no idea. Anywho, but I saw that, and of course, I was a big World of Warcraft guy back in the day, a top 25 guild in the world, or at least in North America. I don't remember if it was the world or not. But so, like, I started watching him, and I did view that he had a lot of good takes, similar to yourself. I did kind of view some of the stuff he's saying to me seemed like duh, or should be common knowledge. But at the same time, you can't really expect everyone to have the same perspective and, maybe better put, life that you have had. So they may not have heard that or had the same opportunities,
True.
because a lot of what he said was like motivational stuff, like I would receive from my father. Not
And
everyone has a good father like I like I would have. And so hearing it from him, who's someone who presents himself with a manner of authority and kind of has decent takes on things, at least at the time, at least the way he presented himself. So
Yeah.
I,
Okay.
yeah, so
So the takes and the presentation of things, I agree that he generally has decent takes. I just think that he expresses them poorly sometimes.
yeah,
Um,
especially now, yeah.
and then I remember being an avid defender. Like, I mean, I will defend you or pretty much anybody before I would ever go on an attack, just because, you know, I'm human. I'm going to make mistakes probably later today, or maybe in a couple of minutes, or I may say the wrong thing in 10 minutes from now and everyone will hate me. But can you still mean well and come across the wrong way?
Oh, absolutely. I've actually thought about that quite a bit here recently. I kind of, I, as much as I hate to quote Asmongold, he, I've been seeing him a lot through my YouTube feeds. Regardless of what you think of the guy, he has a very intelligent take and says things that other people want to say that they don't want to say themselves because out of fear of whatever's happening. I'm not saying I don't have like any manner of respect for him one way or another, honestly. But he did say something about how there are good people who do evil things and there are evil people who do good things.
Right.
And you can be someone who is not a person of good moral character, as my father would love to tell it, freaking yell or talk at me for hours when I was a child, but that's a whole nother can of worms.
Okay.
You can be someone with low moral character, but still do good things, whether or not the intent behind them is self-serving or not is, that's a whole nother moral dilemma.
Sure.
But but he has done, at least presented himself in a lot of good ways to uplift, and he is part of the reason why that I am now developing a game. A game that I've been wanting to work on for the last 20 years. And I kind of just pulled the trigger and started doing it. So, I mean, I definitely do have a manner of appreciation for Thor existing. But, you know, we'll dive more into this, but the
Hmm.
amount of respect I have for him has cratered completely.
So
So,
let's, if we can, I know some of this is probably not new information to people, at least people familiar with the Pirate Software saga. Where did it start to unravel for you, and were there any kind of indicators or steps along the way that kind of were just like, it was like, I can't believe that that is actually true? Because I know that there were people coming out on both sides. There's hardcore defenders. There's people that just want to get the content just by talking about them, and that's what I don't want to have happen, at least in what we do here. But I mean, at
yeah,
some point, you
that's
have to talk about these things in order to get them on the table. But I can think there's, the intention you go about that is important too.
Yeah, well, specifically, we have to talk about it because that's how you and I met
Right.
through an association with him
Right.
of some sort or another. So I mean, I mean, you and I, of course, before this, have talked about it between just you and I, trying to figure out our thoughts about it. Um, but how do I say this? Where it fell apart was it started with the Stop Killing Games initiative for me
Interesting.
when Thor the first time
First time. Okay. And this is like a year
when
ago now,
uh
over a
I think it
year.
was like in February or something like that. I begin to take a step back and begin to better assess how he was conducting himself. And the way that he said that he is actively going to, not discuss anything with, I forget the guy's name he was in charge of, or he was the farms guy. I can't remember his name. Cursed Farms, there it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Ross.
Um, Ross, thank you. How Ross, like he basically just straight up refused to ever directly talk with Ross and have an open debate. When multiple shorts of him, I do recall him saying that he would be willing to sit down and have a discussion.
That's a huge red
But
flag. Yeah.
that was the first thing. He, when challenged, has began to shrink completely. And instead of actually sitting down and having an open discussion, he began to use the ad hominem attacks, use my eat my entire ass as one of his favorite things to say, which, in light of some of the information that's been coming out here recently, is very telling and full of projection. But that's kind of when it started. But I don't immediately change an opinion based upon one event or one scenario.
Same.
It So I did see that as the beginning, and I, of course, benefited the doubt. And for a while, everything seemed to be fine. There were people that were in other events that had happened, but the problem is that when you're someone who has some kind of perceived authority and has made claims, and you have Joey Ray as a father who worked for Blizzard,
Right.
and he brought him onto the stream a few times to have a conversation. So he's kind of it creates this sense of authority and sense of he knows what he's talking about. Of course, there's lots of interesting information. We're coming to find out that is very likely a lie. I'm not going to definitively say that anything Thor has said and done or supposedly had done is fact,
Yeah,
because
there's a lot of mud in the
there's no
water
way
right
to,
now.
yeah. Um, But the problem is the amount of information who has come out, and the individuals who are coming out who are not necessarily well known. And to like specifically, I guess the most recent thing that shortly after Thor went on his little vacation, that he came back to, I think it was yesterday, he actually came back streaming. I don't watch his stuff. I just saw something about it on X.
Mm-hmm.
But um, his old boss and now former roommate that he was there for a month, and kind of the way he acted and everything else. I mean, we can only take it at face value.
Oh, you're talking about
Um,
the one person that talked to the roommate slash boss person.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, Quinthio or whatever.
Was
Yeah,
it that
I,
was it that girl with like the pink hair?
was it pink? I thought it was blonde.
I'm pretty sure it was Quinthio. Was it blonde?
Yeah, yeah, it was Quinthio was, yeah, that it's that video. The two different ones um, that he did. One where he talked about his time at, where they talked about Thor's time at Blizzard and how he was a redditor and didn't really do much. And well, it kind of the sense that I got about the conversation
Mm-hmm.
is that even though Thor, you know, him being the first second generation, person who worked at Blizzard, whatever, he used that to his advantage. And although he
If
can
you were
make,
in a similar situation trying to get credibility and clout, would you lean on something like that?
uh, probably. I mean, I'm human, and
Do you think most
but at
people would
this,
make that same choice?
oh, absolutely.
Okay.
The difference is that within my ethos, I don't like to, how do I say this? If someone vouches for me, I don't want to make them look bad. I'm not perfect, and there are times that people have vouched for me, and I did make them look bad in my past. It's just the way the human nature is, and I'm
Sure.
not going to say here I'm a holier than thou attitude, but I would definitely do my damnedest to not cause any problems. And but it's just from the way she spoke, the mannerisms, and I part of my training in the military, I did have some observational skills. I want to keep that very vague for various reasons.
Mm-hmm.
She presented herself in such a way that I don't believe that she was exaggerating to a high amount. She may have been exaggerating a little bit, but I think she was being very authentic.
You're saying based
And
on her presentation of how she was discussing things, she seemed genuine to you?
yes,
Okay.
so of course I could be completely wrong. I know I'm not the best judge of character. I've come to find out here recently, but that's a whole nother discussion. The it's I guess that's kind of the end of that point. But the
Why do you think people took such a fascination in him?
because of how he blew up so fast.
So meteoric rise, meteoric fall. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah. The problem is that there were a lot of people in the past who he has rubbed the wrong way in many ways before he, ascended to his quote unquote glory that he has now. I mean, he went from, I think it was like 100,000, not even that, on, I think it was like 10,000 actually, give or take, followers on Twitch to over 1.28 million before his fall began, which
Yeah,
I do think he's going to fall below a million. He's going to be the first Twitch streamer that I'm aware of that was at 1.25 million, and now he's going to fall below a million within probably the next 2 to 3 weeks, based upon how he's falling now.
sure.
But
The reason for the
yeah,
fall, why there's a couple of instances. One was the stop killing games. The other
hmm,
one that people seem to really have a problem with, and after like I initially defended the World of Warcraft, hardcore OnlyFans situation until I actually started digging into it. And that's kind of why like I make mistakes all the time. I form judgments, but I'm always try to be open to more information.
hmm,
Someone jumping in to like leave a comment or something. You don't have to attack the other person. You can try to engage in a real conversation.
yeah,
And I think that's always going to open. It's always going to at least create the possibility for something good to happen versus just intentionally destroying it. Um,
yeah, yeah. I definitely put my feet in the water. I guess I am going to talk about this now. I wasn't sure, like, if you discussed, like, if I was actually going to bring this up, but
oh
my whole take on that whole situation with the WoW stuff. I mean,
yeah,
I
we're
took a
talking.
different
Let's
stance.
go ahead and make sure we're talking about the same point.
Yeah.
We're talking about
Okay.
him running out of the raid and the
Yeah.
comment and the way that he handled himself post making that decision to run.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Versus me in the actual events. Yeah. We were talking about two different things there.
Okay, no, we can do both.
Um.
I just want to make sure that we
Yeah.
can we can track the thought. So go ahead with
Yeah.
yours.
I mean, honestly, I guess just to keep going down the path of the social aspect versus the actual mechanic aspect of what happened, and the fact that it's just that was also one of the first times I did kind of begin to see the cracks in his armor, so to speak. The fact that just the way that he doesn't take any personal responsibility, doesn't take any accountability for what happens, and the tendencies of God, I'm trying to not use I want to say that narcissist was the word I was trying not to use. Um, it's just I began to see some of the narcissistic tendencies, but everybody has a little bit of that.
Everybody has those tendencies. So you're also not meaning it as
Yeah.
necessarily negative. You're just associating it as there's a certain there's certain traits that go along with that type of behavior or personality.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, and I began to see those as well. I mean, I do have a fairly recent experience in dealing with a full-blown narcissist, but that's again another discussion. So I began to see a lot of parallels with that, and ironically enough, because of the pirate software situation, actually the narcissist I was dealing with in my personal life, I began to see it in him. So it was kind of a definitely a eye opener in many ways, the whole pirate software situation in that regard, but just the complete and utter lack of accountability, and where he was claiming that he was taking accountability for some of his actions was more of a he used the words he used, I should say. He could claim that he was taking accountability, but he wasn't. It was all of our problem. I didn't do anything wrong. It was, but we all did something wrong.
Right.
Which,
And I think that's
yeah,
kind of whenever I recall kind of unpacking that World of Warcraft situation, there were mistakes made on pretty much every layer
yeah.
of that party.
Oh God,
I
yeah.
don't think that it should have fallen on any individual person, and
Agreed.
I think that that kind of became the scapegoat for the rest of the people just to take it out on that person. Even though, even though I watched the moment regarding like the mana gem and realizing that there's something there, like that was the moment where I was like, wait, maybe I shouldn't just blindly defend somebody or follow somebody, even though I like them. I still think that he's a decent content
Yeah.
creator. I still think,
Mm.
and this is just my personal opinion, and everyone's
I
welcome to
know,
have
I
it.
know, I know.
But I also think that in some ways, he can be a huge benefit and is a huge benefit to the gaming community. But he's just one person of the gaming community, and I think that kind of his story so far has even shown me myself that maybe I shouldn't jump on and dogpile and attack people. Maybe it's because I don't want anyone to feel like that, because I don't feel like that's the way to reach those people.
Agreed.
Even though sometimes sometimes it is the other shoe. Sometimes you have to slap somebody down to be like, hey, like you're making some mistakes. We need to do something. Um, so I guess maybe I felt watching the whole thing unfold and keep my mouth shut. Like I'm still appreciative of where it began. I still think that it's not too late. I see divisions being created within the gaming community, and like the way that we treat each other in this space, even the streaming community.
Hmm.
And that's going to determine how successful all of us are going to be in the future.
Yes, that
Um,
is that is a massive point. Um, Basically, you made me go down a thought path here. I need to process for a moment.
sure.
Um, yeah, sorry. This is, I guess, for those who don't know, I have a traumatic brain injury, so sometimes my thoughts are erratic, and I have to take a moment to think about it. And I also will freeze and not even realize I'm doing it. So if I do go silent, I'm not. Give me a moment. That's all
Sure,
I'm trying
man.
to say.
Hey, there's absolutely no
Um,
pressure.
I
None.
know. I guess, just more in general for those who don't know of that aspect who are listening to this at some point.
Sure.
Um, I also got to find my thought again.
That's okay. Everything that I think is crazy. So,
Well, I guess I do want to draw, I guess, I don't know if this would be considered a parallel, but one thing that I found when I started streaming was the game maker community, specifically the game maker studio or whatever they're calling it now,
okay.
that I use to make my game is, and there's multiple people in the chat right now that are a part of that community who I have found, who I have definitely communicated with, both streaming and out of streaming, and it just in general, the the game maker community has been exceedingly helpful, and I have not really run into a negative within the community. There is one individual, which I will not get into, that I had to deal with for various reasons, but that's outside the scope of this conversation.
For sure.
The But it's just in general, the game maker community has been very uplifting. We help each other out, go each other's and help each other code. And people pop into my channel all the time asking me questions for code. I say
Yeah.
all the time, but
Everyone seems eager to share their ideas and experience and just kind of help some, like the desire
yeah,
to help people seems really prevalent in streaming.
yes. However, I'm also seeing on the flip, on the other side of that coin, it's also could be a just a way to grift and try to pull people into their community, which I haven't really seen that on my channel very much. And again, I'm half the size of yours, a follower count, but it's just kind of a um, in general, just people. It's a hobby. I mean, to me, it's more of a full time job now, but it's still considered a hobby because I have my disability, so I just make my game all day most days,
Hmm.
and helping each other out and just really uplifting each other. Because I mean, you know this, but my whole thing is be kind, be understanding, and be a tide that rises the ships around you.
Hmm.
Is kind of become my whole thing, which is actually something fairly recent to me that I have shifted my focus into that.
What was your focus before?
And I really didn't have one.
Okay.
Um, yeah, that's a whole nother conversation though.
Oh, I'd love to have that one eventually. I'm already
Yeah,
prepped for that
probably
one.
will.
We will.
Here we
We
go.
will.
But kind of taking that back to the whole Thor WoW situation. Essentially, Oh man, let's say this. Like you were saying, everyone was dogpiling on him because he was the scapegoat. Although also at the same time, it was content creation. I don't
Right.
remember the rogue's name. That's kind of the one that was doing the shot calling, and the one that was he is the one that actually said run, and then went back on it, which I could go down that rabbit hole here in a little bit about my whole thoughts on that. But he was specifically doing everything for the content, in my opinion. And he started the whole situation because he's, in my opinion, this is pure speculation on my part,
Sure.
that he, how do I say, created the situation knowing that it could possibly turn into a situation.
So trying
And
to content farm or trying to create a
yes,
moment to have something exciting happen on stream or something risky to get that clip.
well, yes, and at the same time, though, he's even come out and admitted it later that it was all for the content farming. Not specifically the Pirate Software situation, but the way he acts is for the content farm.
Okay, so I mean it's
And
not too hard to draw a loose
exactly,
parallel to that. Okay.
yeah. So, but the fact that everyone did dogpile on him because he didn't, act in according to what his, the mage class or whatever, and the fact that he, never talks about working at Blizzard ever. And then there's the supercut of that, which I still cracks me up when I see that.
Wait, wait, wait.
Um,
Who works at Blizzard?
let's not go there. But it's because of how he presented himself, and then there was a massive crack in his armor that was seen. And of course, the people are going to be trying to twist the knife into that crack as much as they can because it benefits them by dragging him down. And that's standard human nature for those who are on the thinking D&D terms, more evil side of the alignment.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just, how do I say? He didn't help this. He, being a pirate, didn't help the situation by
Oh no, he doesn't.
refusing to take more accountability. And just the whole, man, God, that's so
I
much to unpack with this.
it's fine. We got there's no rush, but it took me by surprise because like whenever it was coming out, I was like, okay, I'm gonna be invested in this. I'd like to just kind of watch how this is because I like this person. I want to, am I
Mm.
gauging this person correctly? Do I need to adjust? Um, Crap, I forgot my thought. No. Um,
Yeah, I don't know that feeling.
Where'd it go? It's floating somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I guess, I mean, I think we're kind of talking a bit, we're maybe repeating ourselves a bit here.
No. I mean, it's important because
Um,
there's subtleties and there's details in there. I do have
sure.
the Soda Poppins take from that clip. We could pull that up and show that. I don't feel that we necessarily need to, other than maybe
Nah,
showing that. I don't see the point, and that seems unnecessary. Just because that would be like content farming. If you guys want that, Soda Poppin has a link called "Investigating the Pirate Software Drama" on YouTube, and I highly recommend you guys go check that out. He does a pretty good job kind of looking at it from all the different angles.
yeah, I personally don't have a necessarily high opinion of Soda Poppin in general. Just, I definitely see him as more content farming than actually being an authentic individual.
Sure.
I mean, that's just that's again a personal opinion. I'm not trying to disparage the individual. I just don't have a necessarily a positive or negative opinion. It's just I view a lot of the big streamers who create content like he does and is more about trying to get the views and the money in the pocket, which again, it's a job. I'm not despairing them, but I just don't have necessarily a high opinion of Soda Poppin in general and the kind of the way he handled the situation. Um, but
Yeah.
at the
I
same
mean,
time,
yeah. Go ahead.
he got to do what's best for him, for his content, and for what he's trying to do.
Right.
So,
And he was the one kind of overseeing the OnlyFans thing at that time, right? Too. So that was kind of his
yeah,
responsibility. Does that change like the nature of how he would
um,
should view things?
Yes, because now you're talking about a leadership aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And him claiming himself as, being the leader. I mean, he did run the OnlyFans whole situation exceedingly well. I will give him props for that. The problem is that whenever a situation occurs where there is infighting, instead of addressing everything and speaking to Thor directly, he kind of just made the decision without actually taking, perspective of everybody else. I
I
now,
remember that, yeah.
yeah, I do agree that Thor did not have the proper, um, he did not act properly, just in general. But
Yeah.
still,
Oh, yeah.
he Soda Pop and acted without speaking to everybody, and he just went off what other people no longer feel comfortable working with, being alongside him or playing games with him because they think that he's going to do the same thing to them. Which,
Yeah.
I mean, I at this point it probably would be good to go down my take on that whole situation. But before that, go ahead and say what you're going to say.
Yeah, I remembered what I was trying to say earlier about software. I was stunned with his ability to, I don't really know a nice way to say it, just like willingly walk into a wall. Like watching the content, I was like, okay, all you got to do is like apologize right now, and everyone will drop it, and then you
Yeah,
just double down. It's like that's the worst time to do it.
yeah,
I could not
that's a
process what I was
narcissistic trope.
watching.
So yeah,
I
someone
guess.
who's well, it is. It's the one of the primary traits of a narcissist. I don't want to bust out the DSM-50 here and
Right,
start
right,
going
right.
through the the all the individual things in there, but it's one refusing to accept even the smallest level of accountability. And while he claims, like where he's even multiple posts about where we all made mistakes. It's no, you
Yeah, see
need to
that
sit
right
down and
there.
specifically
Yeah,
say
right,
where your problem was and where you made the mistake.
right.
But he just didn't do that, to the best of
Yeah,
my knowledge. I could be wrong, of course.
sounds like another
So
person that I know.
yeah, well, everyone knows someone like that. The problem is that a someone who is a full narcissist is very good at convincing people they're not, and convincing what they say is good, and they gaslight you into believing their worldview versus your own. Which again, God, I could talk about that, and one of these days we will, more than likely. But
Oh, we will.
that's yeah.
We absolutely will. Okay, so let's shift it a little bit.
Okay.
I feel like we understand kind of our falling out
Hmm.
with that content creator, and we both kind of understand why. What were some positives? Because like I believe that it's good to talk about the negative. What's something positive that he brought to the world, and do you see him having any potential impact or kind of redemption arc in the future?
Well, I guess there's two points there. So starting with the positive, he did create he didn't create, but he helped create, I should say, the game, software and development um, uh, category on Twitch, at which a lot that did help me find other creators as well as those who helped me grow and have assisted me on my game making journey. So without that, it would be exceedingly difficult to find others because it was just chatting before because there was no specific category.
I did not know
So
that.
he
That's
did.
something that I did not know. He was partially involved
No,
in that.
he was the one who supposedly, again, I don't. This is all his own words,
Okay.
um, spearheaded that whole thing. And after he became partner, he spent supposedly a year or two really trying to speak to Twitch about getting it added, and eventually they did. So that is definitely something that he did. He did kind of reignite a lot of the indie development of games and kind of getting more indie developers known. And part of that, he also did his game jams, which saw thousands of entries. I don't
Hmm.
know how his most recent one did, but I do know that there was still a good amount. I think it did obviously decrease, but I haven't looked at the numbers, so I can't say definitively. But
And it was it like I think I saw something about that. Was it like his 17th one?
yeah, and the last, not the 17th, but the 16th one, he actually had like a decent amount of cash prize. like $10,000 to begin for their game and to help create their actual game studio. So I mean, he has done a lot of positive, but that also goes back to the conversation earlier where, I'm not saying Thor is evil, but it's just kind of the parallel. If evil can still do good things, but the intent behind the action is kind of where you need to figure out um, how it reflects upon the individual. But
Right.
again,
And
we don't. We can't say definitively what his intent was, so I'm not gonna go down that hole
sure.
too much.
Sure. I mean, there's really that's one of the hardest things to ever really kind of lock down unless you spend a lot of time around the person or, you know, researching the person. It's hard to
Hmm.
establish what their true intent was because, like,
Yeah.
some people are really good at hiding it. Some people put it on their shoulder. Um, I I believe that there is some level of miscommunication. Um, I also feel that
Yeah, I see
the
that.
situation was created and made worse by everyone attacking someone. Because you can make progress. Let's just say that, you know, would you want to reach out and talk to people if thousands of people are sending you death threats? And I'm not trying to, bring up a whole victim card here, but I'm just saying, like, as a real person, if you're getting a ton of people wanting to destroy your life, would that motivate you to go talk to them, even if they're like, oh no, everything will be fine, but every single word that you say is going to be used against you? I don't really feel like that creates a platform to grow on.
Yeah, but at the same, I mean, I agree with that statement. The problem is I need to put a caveat to it.
Sure.
The difference is the manner of which he communicated that was exceedingly poor. And
Yeah, the messaging is a problem. Messaging
yeah,
matters. Messaging matters greatly.
so I mean, kind of going back to the whole stop killing games thing. Um, what he should have done is one, do what he said he would do and sit down and talk with Ross and figure out what the confusion was. And they could have come together and uh, basically made the whole situation better for everyone involved,
Yep.
for gamers.
Yep.
And Thor could have, of course, talk about his side of it, figure out what he wanted to, you know, for his point to get across properly. But the problem is that Thor has a tendency to take the information presented at face value, inject part of his reality into the situation that is not necessarily everyone else's reality. And to kind of talk about that is uh, the whole live service games thing. That, of course, Thor, that's the hill he died on. And
Yeah.
concerning that, when Ross specifically mentioned that, everything that Pirate Software said was a mischaracterization. The fact that of course, one of Thor's big things was that the whole petition was very vaguely worded. That's expected because of the way the EU petitions and how all that works. You don't sit down and map out in legal terms what is going to happen,
Right.
because that happens when the petition reaches maturity, when the actual legislators in the European Union sit down and have a discussion, and they will actually bring in industry leaders as well as the petition leader to sit down and make their case, and that is when the legalese is created.
Right. Yeah, that was actually a
Thor,
misconception that I had to start with it as well.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I didn't know about that either. It was because of multiple videos that I saw, and Ross himself, made that information. I did go look up kind of the process myself to verify, and that was basically the truth. And it was because Thor created this false narrative about how that process works, and that is the reason why it caused, at least at the time, of his original statements about it for it to fall on its face. And he also had him being Thor, a massive conflict of interest because the company he was quote unquote working for at minimum wage, supposedly, was had a live service game, and he viewed it as it was going to impact his company's ability to host that game and the whole end of life cycle and all that kind of stuff. But
Interesting.
that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, that's
So
a
that's
completely, I guess that would go into like business sense and motivation because I mean
mhm.
any business would make that choice.
Yeah.
Do we
I,
do
I
we
I
think
don't
that
fault them for it.
maybe we associate streamers too closely with business choices that they make?
It depends on the streamer and the context of what they're trying to stream, in my opinion. Like, I guess go down the VTuber rabbit hole in that regard, even to bring up the whole Cinder situation. Um, that is a whole nother can of worms. I don't really want to talk about too much, but
I'm not prepared to
for those
talk
who,
about that one.
well, I'll just for context purposes,
Sure.
Cinder was a VTuber who was big in the indie scene alongside Iron Mouse, Shy Lily, and a couple of others. Bow, another one of those, where they were basically in a friend group, and come to find out, Cinder behind the scenes was sabotaging all the other persons in the friend group, and it was quote unquote just business. Direct quote from her, from
Hmm.
Cinder, and they got found out, and she's disappeared off the face of the planet now because everybody, all the VTubers in the indie scene, basically came out and just told her to go away, for lack of a better way to describe it. That they no longer
Oh,
wanted her around.
is it
So
the Sinder?
yes, who
Okay.
you have on the screen and that you're showing me, that's exactly who it is.
I'll show
But
chat. This is who we're
um,
referencing.
they can't see it. There you go. Yeah.
There's a slight lag between it popping up here and then
Ah,
popping up on the screen.
yeah,
A couple seconds.
yeah, that's true. That's true. I forgot about that. I haven't streamed in a week and I forget these things. Um, but that's just a stereotyp not stereotypical, an example of how a lot of streamers do see it as a business in the business sense, and I don't fault them for that at all. But the problem is that she was malicious with it, and but I won't get into the
No,
full. That's a
I mean
yeah.
that I think that's actually maybe a really good kind of pivot point because we could go ahead and use that as kind of the crossover to the next topic as well.
Yeah, why not? I mean, I think we beat the or milked the dead horse with pirate software
Well,
quite a bit. So,
I I still feel that there's more that will come about.
hmm
I think that a redemption arc is due. And I
I
agree
personally
that
don't believe there will be one, but I would love to be wrong, but I don't think there will be one.
sure. I guess for me, this goes into kind of how I approach the world. Like I'm always gonna hope for something to happen, and I guess maybe it it is naive to think that way, because reality in the real world and all that. But
Hmm
I'd rather believe that something's possible than believe that something can't, because at least there's a possibility for something to happen. Um,
Yeah,
and I would rather, and I'm fine with living in that little naive bubble, because that makes me want to find the best part of you and the best part of everybody that I come into contact with.
yeah,
Like
that's definitely something that I've struggled with a significant portion of my life. Um, but trying to, I mean, God, that's another rabbit hole I don't want to go down right now.
it's fine.
But yeah, I do echo your sentiment there. Try to look for the best in people, but a lot of too many situations, both from my time in the military as well as just recently too. It's kind of proven to me that people are ultimately always 100% out for themselves, which I guess is normal, and I wish it
I don't
wasn't.
agree with that. Like
Yeah.
I I think that there is a shift that occurs between want and need. I think there's a lot of people that selfishly choose to go after the things that they want.
hmm
Um, but I also believe that altruism is hard. Like true altruism is hard to find, and that's just doing things for the right reasons, just because it's helpful, just because it's good, and you're not
Yeah.
expecting anything in return.
Yeah.
I think that even if you have like even just doing this, like I want to just have the conversations. I want to talk. I
Mhm.
enjoy getting to engage with people and have real conversations. This is awkward and normal and exciting, But does that mean that part of this is like fulfilling me in a way? Absolutely. Does that make it selfish? I don't think so, because that's not my intent behind it, but do I get something out of it? So how do you wrap that kind of in itself? Like, where do you draw that line?
Well, it's that you're trying to apply a quantitative
Mm-hmm.
number, like we're better to this, and that's not something that can really be done.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that will try. There are people that will try to, put a like percentage or level between 1 through 10 or whatever, and once you hit a certain number, then it becomes self-serving versus the true altruistic, like you're talking about. But you can't do that because human nature and our own individual perceptions of reality is dramatically different between each other. What how I perceive reality is how different between how anybody else perceives reality, and kind of how do I say this? There is not one version of reality, in my opinion. There are multiple versions of reality, and each of those versions of reality is quote unquote processed in each individual human mind on this planet. And that is also part of the reasons why that there's so much conflict between, I mean, not to get too deep into politics here, between the left and the right, is
It's
because,
unavoidable. We're gonna have to get
yeah,
into politics at
yeah.
some point.
Well, I
It's
mean, I
too
just at this
connected.
moment, I'm not
No,
at
no,
this
I get it.
moment,
I
I'm
get
just
it. I
using
get
it
it.
as a
Yeah, yeah.
metaphor, I guess. But it's that people are unable to separate themselves and try to look at it from another perspective because they just have never experienced that perspective. And there's a certain amount of intelligence that is required to be able to take a step back and try to look from another perspective. Whether you succeed or not,
Okay.
that's a whole nother discussion.
Let me see if
But
I can clarify something so I
yeah,
can make sure I understand.
yeah,
You said that you
sure.
believe there are multiple realities, right?
Not so much in the sense of like multiple dimensions, in the traditional sense. It's just that perception, with
Okay.
the whole
Okay,
perception
that's
is
what I wanted
reality.
to clarify because
Yeah,
okay, so we're all working off of, in my mind, how I think you're trying to say it is we're all working off of the same reality that's presented to us, but we're all experiencing it differently because of our own
correct.
perceptions.
Correct. What is hell to one person could be heaven to another is kind of a good way to put it.
Fair enough.
So, yeah, but yeah, that's basically all I was going to say there.
That was really good. It's good good note. So let's go ahead and dig over into
Collective shout.
Collective Shout and
And
Valve
boy,
and all of this good stuff. Let me go ahead and pull up these notes real quick to see
yeah,
where
which
it is.
definitely something that I'm been kind of keeping an eye on. I'm not an expert in it by any stretch of the imagination, but of course, being as now an indie game designer, I do eventually want to sell my games. I do want to succeed, and the only real way you can do that right now is through Steam. There
Yeah.
really is no viable alternative. You got the Epic Store. I mean, you can try to submit your um, game to, like, say, Nintendo. And ironically enough, yesterday, I don't know if you're familiar with Randy Feltface, the that comedian that's a puppet out of Australia.
Uh no, I don't think so.
Very funny individual. Anyways, well, he has these little he does a lot of crowd work, and one of the like he'll ask people their name, what they do for a living, and try to make jokes based upon that. Well, he happened to I just saw a video. I don't know when this was, but uh, someone worked for Nintendo, specifically working on the website where people go and submit their games. And he was saying the individual said that we receive 1,000 games a month to be submitted to Nintendo, and 900 of them are shit.
I saw that. Yeah, yeah, I saw that.
So yeah, so that's kind of an example of how difficult it is for a non AAA studio in order to actually get a game that's worth that might actually be worth going on to the Switch, so to speak,
Yeah.
and just not having that capability to because it just there's not enough out there because of the multiple triopolies, duopolies, monopolies, however you want to say it, of these publishers, the big publishers on these big systems, and they get to gatekeep everything.
And
Steam,
there's only so much airtime that they need to cover to squash because I mean I think my understanding is as a game dev or an indie game dev, it's going to be marketing.
Yes.
Like how do you get people to know about your game? Because like you could have the best game in the world, but if no one knows about it, no one can buy it and no one can tell their friend about it. So
Yeah.
that's where like you're saying Steam is so important because that's really the only known kind of established way to kind of get your game easily found or more easily platformed.
Accessible.
Accessible is a good word for it.
Accessible.
Yeah, accessible.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of am lucky with the whole marketing aspect because I have a good friend of mine who is a marketer by trade, and she is volunteered to head all that up for me because that's what she does for a living. So I have that luck there. However, whether she succeeds or not, or helps me succeed, I'm not going to put blame on her, obviously, if it doesn't succeed. But it's just I do have that leg up over probably some of the other game devs. Um, and from what I can tell, she's very good at what she does, and I am going to put my trust into her because I've known her for a while and we've helped each other out in the past. But anyways, I don't want to talk about
No,
our
no, no,
relationship
that's
too much.
good. That's good. I mean,
But
establishing trust, I mean that's how you got to get anything to grow because we can't do this by ourselves, man.
exactly. But kind of going back to the whole Valve Steam situation, it's um, the fact that Steam is being so aggressively targeted. Of course, this creates multiple trains of thought as to why specifically Steam is being targeted.
So let's start
And
with the
you know,
base concept from what you can like the simplest understanding of the situation, where it began, where it's going. Um,
okay,
so just so we can start at a beginning point and we can all kind of walk that path together. But just one quick question before you do that. Do you also feel that there are people, I already know my answer to this, but do you feel that there are people that would not get a game if it's not on Steam? Like if
yes.
someone was going to go get your game and it was available on a website versus it's available on Steam, you think they'd be more likely to buy it on Steam and why?
Yes, primarily because of the trust, the brand trust, specifically of Valve. Valve has sold themselves and proved themselves to the gaming community as someone or a company that will, let's see, I guess specifically, I have to be more with Gabe, the guy who created Valve a long time ago and kind of runs Steam. Although I think he's on his way out and retiring, which as soon as that happens, everyone's fearing that the indie community as a whole is going to largely collapse because then you're going to have venture capitalists come in and just royally screw over everything because he is more concerned about actually the games versus making money. Of course he's in it for the money, but his focus has always been on the gaming community, and his statements and his actions do project that sense. And he has a great deal amount of admiration across the board, whether it be from AAA studios or indie developers such as myself, as well as gamers themselves as well.
Even someone like
Um,
myself who's relatively not experienced or informed in some of the that stuff, I have a very positive and loyal impression of Valve and Steam.
mhm,
I think that just with what I've seen, how they respond to some of the struggles that they have are exactly what I want to see.
mhm. Yeah, it's Gabe creates this humanistic um, view, or how should I should say, how do I, okay, let me rephrase this.
Mm-hmm.
Valve appears very human versus corporations such as Nintendo, who you don't really know much about, I say the average person, and at least from my point of view, I could be wrong, don't really know too much about the leadership of Nintendo unless you're a diehard fan. But if you're play games on the computer and you go through Steam, you know who Gabe is, or more likely to know who Gabe is because of the way he presents himself, the way that the internet memes the shit out of him,
It's
and a
it.
lot of others.
I believe that it's because it actually has a community.
Yes,
I think
that I mean
I
that's
think
one point I was going to
Nintendo
get to.
kind
Yeah.
of lost their heart, or they sold it somewhere. And maybe this is, I mean, this is just my opinion, but I think at some point, whenever a company or anything gets too big, it starts to eat itself, and then it starts that downward death spiral. And
No, well,
I think
like
that happens whenever you start losing the, I guess just losing
you
the
kind of
heart of what your purpose was.
well, you have to sidestep and to make a quick comment on Nintendo before we go too deep into it.
Yeah,
It's Nintendo is probably the most one of the most litigious organizations on the planet,
sure.
and they go after anyone that they view is not going to present any of their brands like Nintendo and all sub brands like Mario and stuff like that in the exact manner that they want to present it.
Fair.
And because of that, they basically just go after everyone and to protect the brand, but they have gone overboard in the opinion of the average gamer, from what I understand. I mean, I'm not trying to speak for everyone, but so it's for that reason that Nintendo has basically not is not viewed as well. And of course, the PAL world is a good example of
Hmm.
the current litigious crap they're trying to pull. I mean, this is a rabbit hole we could go down to with that, but instead of actually going after PAL World for the what is arguably the obvious parallels to Pokemon, they're going after the mechanics that they have supposedly um, trademarked, which or copyrighted, I think is a better term. Which in my opinion is complete and utter garbage. I mean, I do have a bias in this because I am a now indie developer,
Hmm.
and I have to be careful with certain mechanics that I do because if I do a mechanic unknowingly that is trademarked or copyrighted by someone, by another company, I could get sued.
I'm just
Which,
gonna
in my
say my
opinion,
personal opinion. That's
yeah,
insane. I find
exactly,
I
yes,
find that concept or that idea to be absolutely insane, and it's hard to get me to say something like that.
yeah,
Like,
it's very obvious that it's a control, it's a monopoly, it's them trying to pad their numbers, which thanks to various court decisions in the past, at least in the United States, they have a fiduciary responsibility to do that, which is not I can't think of the term, not in the best interest of the consumer, but the best interest of the investor, which in itself, like you said before, will eventually cause a company to eat itself because they lose sight of the original vision and
it's
the reason
because
why they
they're
were loved to
chasing
begin
their
with.
margins, they're chasing the money,
Yes,
and I mean, I
exactly.
think that in just my experience playing games growing up, I've played games since like Atari, Nintendo. I've played everything.
Same.
It was essentially what kind of raised me, because
Hmm.
it was what I had close. It was the closest thing because I mean I lived out in nowhere, so
How I learned to read.
no friends. Yeah, um,
So
but the games were used to be really hard. Used to be challenging. Used to be requiring input. But I feel like even myself has gotten worse as a gamer because they started to. Do you remember like the push where like games are just like, here, just go click this button and it's done for you, but it requires no brain power. I mean, there's some games that's totally intended, but I feel like just games have been chasing.
the lowest common denominator.
Yes, yeah, that's a good way to put
Hmm.
it. And it's like,
Yeah,
oh, well,
you're absolutely true.
let's just get something out so we can go ahead and get that buck and we can get that listing and we're not going to care about it. And then maybe that ties into like the like the Clear Obscure Expedition 33. I believe that they put a lot of passion into that
Hmm.
project. And
Oh
I,
yeah,
and I mean even like the gaming background of like some of the people that work there, like I was very impressed with that, and that was something that came out of left field. And
yeah.
I wonder like why we don't see more of that. And is it just because like I feel that even watching streamers and game developers, like I pretty much lurk all day, and I'm in like probably dozens of channels and streams every single day.
Yeah, same, same,
Um,
same.
it seems almost impossible until a community comes together or the gaming community comes together to change kind of the status quo that I feel like we've been put in or allowed ourselves to be put in.
Force fed, in my opinion.
And like
But yeah,
my stance on like I took a kind of a unique stance on like the stop killing games thing, right? Like my whole thing is like we don't need to fight. Like you take your millions of followers, you take the two or three that I have, and we'll come together and we'll have a couple million and three followers. Like let's go. and then we keep adding to that. But like, how do we find that neutral ground so we can maybe do that?
The problem is the exploitative nature of the lower count streamers to the higher count streamers, or at least the view of that exploitation. I mean, I can tell you how many times I go through X and I see streamers complaining about they can't make friends with bigger streamers because they don't want the bigger streamer doesn't want some of their viewers to be taken by the lower streamer, which does happen. It will happen. But a lot of them take it to the extreme. And on the flip side, the lower streamer is trying to exploit or try to grift to get the bigger streamer. And that actually goes back to the Cinder situation I talked about before, because the only reason why Cinder blew up as much as she did is because she became friends with Bow the Whale, Iron Mouse, and a lot of the other streamers that
Right.
kind of just exploded.
Okay.
So they uplifted her, and then on the back end, again, didn't dive too deep into this, she basically backstabbed them in various ways. So it's very difficult to, I guess it does go back to the intent and where you are on that D&D 9 grid alignment scale of the more evil side versus the more neutral to lawful sides, and how one individual will act. So it's the problem is you really can't find a true neutral.
It's
I
very
do have a
hard.
personal,
It is hard.
yeah. I do believe that everything, well, I say believe, I use that term loosely for this, that ultimately everything goes down to the zero sum. The positive and the negative will always cancel each other out. And like the world, and in my opinion, kind of, sort of, this is kind of getting way into another subject here, but ultimately the good and the evil of the world will equate to zero. There is always a true neutrality. It's just that some parts of the world, whether it be the good or the evil, is shown more. We're seeing this more with social media, the algorithms, because the bad side, people, the fear response creates more clicks. But anyways, that's a whole nother
Yeah,
rabbit
now
hole
we're
to go down.
getting into social engineering
So
territory, and we'll
yeah,
definitely have some time for that too.
I do have quite a bit of knowledge on that based upon some of the experience from the military.
Okay, so yeah,
But
on
moving on,
on
yeah.
that note, if there is anyone or every single one of my followers, I highly suggest you go and you immediately follow Brewer. If Brewer has less than me, then that is an issue. Um,
At the same time, I'm not trying to blow up or become super popular. I just want to make my game.
no,
So,
no, 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 no. It's 2 million copies sold, and then you'll fly to Sweden. That's what's happening.
yeah, that's also a meme, but I will fulfill my commitment if that does happen.
Hey,
So,
I have an objective. Let me reach for it.
I know. I'm still gonna say what I'm gonna say about it,
Yeah. Okay, so let me go ahead and hop
though.
over to the
Here, yeah.
Valve sensor. I'm gonna play this section here. It's looks to be like about 2 minutes. It covers quite a couple of pieces that I think will give us something to bite on, and it covers kind of some of the responses between Valve and Mastercard and all that, just so we can be referencing the material that they actually have. And this is using a clip from Bellular News, and yeah, we'll just go with that. And then if you need me to pause, just tell me to pause.
Will do.
Mastercard put out a public statement on, quote, recent headlines on gaming content. Hello. Anyway, they explicitly deny asking any platform to restrict sales. And they
So just for the people only listening, what they've thrown up is Mastercard's clarifying statement, and it says clarifying recent headlines on gaming content. Mastercard has not sorry. Mastercard has not evaluated any game or required restrictions of any activity on game creator sites and platforms, contrary to media reports and allegations. Our payment network follows standard based on the rule of law. Put simply, we allow all lawful purchases on our network. At the same time, we require merchants to have appropriate controls to ensure MasterCard cards cannot be used for unlawful purchases, including illegal adult content. That's their starting response. Do you want to add anything to start? Am I good to keep going, Brewer?
Well, go ahead. I mean, there's some things I'd love to add to that, but more context is needed beforehand. So go ahead.
Sure.
They say that they haven't actually evaluated a individual game. Their claim is they allow all legal products to be sold. They only ban illegal purchases. Visa actually told customers the same thing, which would certainly make the last few weeks really confusing, wouldn't it? Because
I'm going to go back to that Visa response.
only ban
He
illegal
only flashes it
purchases.
for a second.
Visa
So right there. So apparently this response is something that they sent out from Visa. It says, hello, thank you for reaching out and sharing your perspective. As a global company, sorry, we follow the laws and regulations everywhere we do business. While we explicitly prohibit illegal activity on our network, we are equally committed to protecting legal commerce. If a transaction is legal, our policy is to process the transaction. We do not make moral judgments on legal purchases made by consumers. Visa does not moderate content sold by merchants, nor do we have visibility into the specific goods or services sold when we process a transaction. When a legally operating merchant faces an elevated risk of illegal activity, we require enhanced safeguards for the banks supporting those merchants. For more information on their policies, please go to their webpage. So from both Mastercard and Visa, they're saying, well, we don't restrict anything as long as it's legal. Is that what you've gotten so far?
Yeah, but that's not true.
Okay.
Slight background. I used to work in the banking industry for like 8 years. I managed a lot of the systems on the back end. I'm not saying that I'm an expert at any like the way or the legalities of all of this, but they are technically correct in what they're saying. The problem is the process at which something is deemed illegal, or let me take a step back. Basically, with Collective Shout, when they did their complaints to Visa and Mastercard about the adult games that are on Steam, Mastercard takes that, but they don't directly interface with Steam. They interface with the banking partners that Steam uses to process those payments that uses the Visa and Mastercard network, because there are two types of credit card networks in the world. You have the Visa and Mastercard side, and then Discover and American Express side. There are more, but using these two, the two largest, the largest of these two as examples, where American Express and Discover, they are actually a bank. They are their own bank. They do not necessarily branch out into other banks
That means they control it
to do.
themselves.
Yes, they everything is internal. They process everything themselves, where Visa and Mastercard are nothing more than a network that then works with other banks in order to do the payment processing and move the money between each other.
Okay.
So, because of the way that Visa and Mastercard operate versus American Express and Discover, um, basically what Mastercard has done is to force an investigation on the bank that they work with. And that bank will then make a determination whether or not it is illegal or violates policies. The problem is that these banks are citing Mastercards. What's that? Let me actually get the 15 or 5.12.7 illegal content rule of Mastercard as their reasoning for deplatforming or debanking Valve. And
So you're saying the payment process are using the stuff presented by Mastercard and all them as their
yes,
justification. So that's circular logic. That's a logical fallacy.
exactly. So it's, well, there might not be a complete circle there.
Okay.
What I mean is that if Visa and if this bank wants to continue working with Visa and Mastercard, they can't allow the illegal actions through their bank. And how do I say this?
But they're saying this is illegal actions. This is tied to video games. This is video games.
Yeah.
How the
but
hell does this tie to video games?
that's part of the problem that is being presented. It's because of they're using the brand risk overall, because they're worried that if Visa and Mastercard are using this, are claiming this,
It'll
that
damage their
if they
brand, so they have to enforce it.
have to enforce it. Yes, but again, it's not illegal content. It is legal content. It just does not um, jive or whatever with their.
It's operating on a different moral spectrum than what they're wanting to implement.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, they're trying to enforce a moral directive when they obviously, at least, from anyone with a standard amount of common sense can see that it's trying to enforce a set of rules, and they become the arbiters of the moral rule.
Yeah, I'm
And
gonna go with a hard pass. That just seems like that just gives me like can that qualify as an ick? Is that an ick that I'm allowed to have?
sure,
Yes, that's an ick thing.
I'm pretty sure that most people on this planet will agree with you and me about this.
So how does something like this even come to pass versus like it seems like there is a very large concerted, and I know that we haven't even gotten more than a minute into this video, but there seems to be a lot of big pieces moving in a particular direction at this same time.
Yeah. Oh God, dude.
Tell you, before we open the rabbit hole, let's finish this video.
Yeah.
All right, we'll dig back into it.
Actually told customers the same thing, which would certainly make the last few weeks really confusing, wouldn't it? Because lots of perfectly legal content has been delisted from these stores. And well, that is why Valve kind of just went and shot Mastercard and Visa down almost immediately. So, Valve released a rare statement to Kotaku, and here's what they revealed. Mastercard refused to talk to them directly. Slap.
So what we have here is a looks like a title as well as a statement from the Kotaku, I'm guessing, journal website. It says Mastercard denies pressuring Steam to censor not safe for games or not safe for work games, and quote, Mastercard did not communicate with Valve directly despite our request to do so. So that's essentially Valve saying that, well, we wanted to talk to you, but you just said, nope, we're taking this down. This is happening, and then we're gonna use these other people to enforce it.
I'm not sure that statement would be entirely true. You're not wrong, but I don't think it's the entire truth.
Okay.
They are using the plausible deniability. They are allowing the other institutions that work on their network to basically take the fall for this. And because there's a whole system that is set up that I guess some of the other videos that I showed you before we started doing this we probably do want to play that, because I think that individual does a much better explanation than I can. But to kind of touch on it, basically, if you are deplatformed or debanked for basically any reason, you are by contract with Visa and Mastercard put into what they call the match system, MATCH system. And I forget exactly what the acronym stands for, but it has to do with basically notifying payment processors in general to be wary of working with this company. It's a very secretive system.
It's
There's
it's
no
like
way,
it's like a red flag, but it's okay.
but it's abused.
Right.
It is abused to push a narrative, whatever that narrative
That's
is.
very easy to control a system with just
Yes.
that single piece.
Yes, and there is no oversight to it. And supposedly it takes years, if ever, to get removed from the system. And since Valve lost, PayPal and other payment processors, it is by contract added to that system. So now this creates a way for these larger, like these payment, like Visa and MasterCard, has a great deal amount of leverage over Valve now, which could then, as long as Valve wants to continue to make the same amount of money, or stay in business to the same degree that they have been for the last decade, has to bend to the will of these payment processors. So that is the whole beginning. That's basically where the censorship discussion needs to begin.
Ooh, censorship. That's a big topic. Oh my.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my, that's a big topic.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell you what, let's go ahead and finish this video. Unless there's another thing to pause. Because the censorship would derail us at the moment, but it's definitely in alignment with it.
Yeah.
Instead, what happened is Mastercard talked to their network of payment processors and banks, and then those middlemen then went and talked to Valve, and they basically refused to accept Valve's own content policy. They said that Valve must follow Mastercard's rule 5.12.7.
Is that the one that you were referencing from before, 5.12.7?
Yes.
Okay.
And also, kind of since they brought it up there, in the 428-page rule document that Mastercard has, that match system that I just described, the only spot that it is included is in that rule.
Oh.
Only.
So that's like the black hole that they want to throw you down, so you don't have. I mean, that is assuming they have malintent, but it seems. Is there any justification that they could use to sell this to you as it being a good thing?
No. Not with what some of the, just some information I can't disclose because of NDAs.
Yeah.
But with some of the information that I know about how a lot of this stuff is processed on the back end, it's in my opinion completely malicious.
Interesting. That's an interesting stance. I mean, it seems I'm unable to creatively come up with an excuse, at least right now.
Yeah.
Right.
There isn't one.
Which is thrilling. What's that rule? Well, that rule does ban illegal content, sure, but it also says any content that, quote, reflects negatively on Mastercard can be banned.
That's big. That's exactly what you were discussing. And you have you haven't seen this video before.
So I have.
You have, okay.
Yeah, I've watched this some time ago.
Okay. But you didn't know that I was actually going to reference this one, so that's good. So
No, he did not.
Okay. Most of our information seems to kind of align.
Or, this is the real banger, content that, quote, lacks serious artistic value.
Lacks serious artistic value.
Banger, content that, quote...
What?
Yeah, so basically they have made the rule in such a way that they can do whatever the hell they want. And they get to be the arbiters of what is considered art.
Yeah, they're becoming the arbiters of morality as well as artistic value.
Mm-hmm. And art is subjective. You can't necessarily sit there and say that one thing is art versus another. Like an example that I may eventually get flack for is I don't much care for Van Gogh and the way the way he did art in the past. I'm a logical person. It's very illogical the way that he did his art. I'm not saying it's bad. I personally don't care for it.
Okay.
So by my set of rules that I could say that Van Gogh's, the way that he's done his art, it was not, artistic enough to be allowed on payment processors. I mean, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's an example of what
they could just decide. Oh, Van Gogh's not an artist, so you can't use our payment processor. You can't use our card to purchase anything related to this.
Right.
That's insane.
I mean, that's kind of a extreme example because objectively speaking, it is art, of course, with Van Gogh.
I mean, we're using it hyperbolically, but it serves as a good example.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But to kind of put it into more of what, from their perspective, is such as the different types of adult games, the lack of a better way to describe it, the way the kids do it, the gooning that is, the gooning perspective or view of a lot of that material. Why do we get to, or why does anyone get to tell somebody else what is considered moral or immoral? With, of course, I have to always say the exception of as long as it's through consenting adults.
Right.
Nobody, in my view, has the authority or should have the authority, I should say, to be able to dictate what somebody else does. I mean, regardless of religious grounds and everything else. I mean, my
What
personal
you
religious
do in the
views. Yeah.
privacy of your home or in your life is none of my business.
Yep. And as long as it doesn't involve children, and it's not flaunted in front of my damn face, or you're trying to compel me to say or do something, I don't care.
Well, I mean, that goes into the force aspect of it. It's like
Yeah.
forcing you to think a certain way or forcing you to have a certain opinion. And I refuse. Like, if you come up to me and you tell me you're going to do this, it's not going to work out for you.
Yeah. I'm going to say something a little controversial here, but
Oh,
in the
no.
spirit
Oh, no. No controversy.
of, yeah, in the spirit of what this podcast is supposed to be about, and I am going to bring up the trans issue here.
Okay.
The, the, but my personal view on it is I'll say it from this aspect. If someone who is trans, who was born one sex but wishes to be called another sex, asks me to call them that, out of respect, I will. But if you come up to me and say you will do this, I am not going to respect you, and I'm not going to honor that, because nobody can compel me to say or do something, but outside the threat, like a threat of violence.
Right. Right.
So I
That's a
mean, if
different story then. Right.
that's a different story. So along that same ground,
No, but I mean,
if
you would make that choice or you would do that just to be considered that other person.
yes, because I mean, my whole thing is to be kind. It's
Right.
like that's the reason why it's the first thing I say on my closing statements on my streams, is to be kind, because my lived experience is not the same as somebody else's lived experience. I don't understand what's how the neurons are being, firing in someone else's brain versus mine. I can only go from my relativistic view of the world, and I am not going to be a hypocrite and try to force my relativistic view onto somebody else. But if someone else tries to do that to me, I will fight you as to the extent in which I need to. So if someone, like I said, someone who is trans requests that I respectfully request that I call them by their preferred gender, I will. But you try to force it on me and try to play any kind of emotional manipulation, you just made probably one of the worst enemies you can.
Well, I mean, like,
So,
I think that people that would function or do function like that, because it's all over TikTok and there's easy examples to pull up of, they're not approaching it from the same place you are.
exactly.
And I feel that a lot of the pain and problems that, people that find themselves in that situation are being used against them or are being used as a divisive tactic.
Yeah, yeah. But that's a whole nother can of
Yeah,
worms
whole
I'm sure
nother
we'll
can
get
of
into
worms.
at some point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that that's probably something we should probably spend like an entire episode or something just talking about, because there's a lot to
Yeah.
unpack there.
Yeah, I'm down for it.
Yeah, but no,
But
I mean,
yeah, sorry,
I
but
totally get behind the, if you're just nice to me, if you I mean, actually, I can tie this into a recent example. If you just like beat me in a video game and then you come into the stream and you want to like, oh, you're such a piece of shit, like, how you should never play the game again, like, that's not that's not loving, that's not kind. And I mean, you don't have to do
mhm.
that, but I feel like, and this kind of circles back to the gaming community. Why can't we jump into that stream and say, hey man, that was great, you'll do better next time?
Yeah,
And then you can inspire
it's
that person to play another game and do better versus tear them down.
yeah. Well, that gets into God. God, that's it's the human condition, the
Yeah.
need to be superior, and the this is something that I actually struggled with a lot. Some not too long ago, actually, was control. When people do not have control or a view of control, or they feel that their life is out of control, whatever perspective they see that in, they will try to find ways in order to gain some sense of control, whether or not it is actual control or not.
Right. They want
And
to have some feeling of control at least.
exactly. And by going in and shit talking someone in a stream and stuff like that, they begin to control the narrative of that stream, whether it just be for a moment or a prolonged period of time. And that control is what they crave, and they also want the response out of you because they get their dopamine hit off of it. This can actually go back to PirateSoftware in a way, and saying that he has to have a great deal amount of control with everything that's going on, and the moment he loses control of that narrative is when everything starts crashing down around him,
Hmm.
and he refuses to relinquish that control or sense of control, and so he just doubles down, triples down, and quadruples down constantly. But that's one possible reasoning for why he's doing what he's doing. But anyways,
Fair enough.
that digressing back.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right. So I'm going to pull us back to the Valve topic and the rule that they have. I'm going to go ahead and read it, at least what's on screen. It says a corporation considers any of the following activities to be in violation of this rule, and that's at 5.21. something. Number one.
5.12.7.
Okay, 5.12.7. Number one, the sale or offer of a sale of a product or service other than in full compliance with the law than applicable to the acquirer, issuer, merchant, cardholder of cards, or the corporation. I don't understand a word of that first sentence. Number two, the sale of a product or service, including an image, which is patently offensive and lacks serious artistic value. So let's unpack that because they have parentheses after that, such as, by way of example, and not limited to,
not limitation.
Not limitation.
Yeah.
Is that actually in there, written like that in their thing?
Yep. And not limitation. Yeah.
Wow, they put a lot of effort into this part. Okay, images of non-consensual sexual behavior. I mean, how do you I mean, there are ways that you can. How do you subjectively say that, or how can you objectively say that? Because there are kink communities and adult communities where some of that stuff or how it's being portrayed is exactly what they're. It's consensual, but it's under like that kink community or that the adult community.
Yeah.
So I think that.
Go ahead, continue.
Yeah. Sexual exploitation of a minor. I can't stand people destroying innocence, and I think that if you mess with a minor, you're destroying innocence, and I don't have too much pity for you. And that's the nicest. That's the nicest way that I can possibly say that.
I would love to say more on it, but I am going to keep my mouth shut.
Another place, another time. Non-consensual mutilation of a person or body part. Man, that's that one. And bestiality, of course, bestiality. Do you see why I got hung up on that one right there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because non-consensual mutilation of a person or body part. So every video game ever.
Because we want to. Yeah, they've done a good job of saying pretty much any interpretation of art they're good with. They can do something with.
Lax
or any other material that the corporation deems unacceptable. Corporation deciding.
Mm-hmm.
No. Okay, so
they're trying to put themselves as the morality police, and I don't know when they made this rule and put it into effect. I don't know how long it's been here, but I do have a suspicion that this has something that was added. I would say sometime in the last decade or two, because as we begin to push toward the censorship, like with anything, you have an organization, whether it's large or small, trying to assert control. It's the whole boiling the frog metaphor. You have to make slow changes, and eventually, once you have all the rules set in place and they've been agreed upon, you can basically pull the trigger and begin acting on it, and you go at such a pace that everyone can't keep up until the hammer is down already, and you're locked in place, like for a metaphor to describe it. And that's kind of what I think is starting to happen. The problem is that they chose the wrong avenue in order to do this in their hubris by going after gamers, they have basically shot themselves in the foot and are getting a significant amount of pushback to the point where even President Trump has signed an executive order that kind of covers this.
I've seen some stuff.
But
I've seen some stuff coming out about that it may address it, saying that you won't be allowed to use your reputational potential damage as an excuse.
correct. I'm not sure if that was actually signed or they're working on it currently, but he did sign something recently about the deplatforming of banks,
Okay.
or the banks deplatforming individuals specifically. I mean, banks like Bank of America who have targeted conservative, talking heads. But
So I
there
feel like
was some
that's
wording
also a
in it.
response to what's going on, even though
Mhm.
like what is going on is still happening. The
Correct.
screws are still being tightened.
Yeah, but it's getting harder to turn the screw. And I honestly, like, for continue the metaphor, they're not able to it got jammed. The screw is jammed, and they're still trying to put more force into it. It's just not, the screw isn't currently moving.
All right. Well, hopefully we can
So there
strip
is
that screw out.
definitely a pushback, and it is beginning to succeed. But I don't think the screw has loosened
I
in.
think that it's going to get woven in here by the time we finish covering some of these things.
Yeah.
But all right, let's go ahead and jump back into this.
Value. I'm really glad that they are the people who now, yes, judge what serious and unserious artistic value is. Cool. Awesome that payment processors are now the judges of art. Fantastic. And if you breach that rule, Mastercard can revoke your ability to process transactions and impose a 200 grand fine. And that's where this
$200,000 fine.
Yep. But the funny thing about it is that there's no way that they could actually collect that.
How do you
Outside
enforce it is my question.
the contract that is signed. Whenever a vendor is the proper term, signs a contract with some kind of payment processor, they agree to these conditions. So when in violation of that contract, they could get sued to get that $200,000 from them because they are in violation of the contract. However, I'm not a lawyer, but you can start getting into contract law here, and a judge can actually throw this out, and probably would throw this out depending upon, the political stance and so much other stuff, because you can't really enforce a fine of that amount with proper legal sense. I can't think of the proper term right now, actually. But real quick, on the payment processors, a lot of what you're going to find is the smaller countries that have a payment processor, such as the African ones, as well as some in like the southwest part of Asia and stuff like that, South America as well. Those were all the payment processors that dropped, that caused that blah blah blah. I can't talk right now.
Yeah, it looked like all of the payment processors outside of like first world or the main countries were removed.
Yeah, the top six economies, any monetary units outside of the six largest economies are the ones that they dropped, which is indicative of them testing the waters before they try to enforce it on everybody.
I mean, is that also going to stop me from purchasing a gift for my friend that lives in one of those countries?
If it's for Valve, yes. Well, no, because the payment, it's wherever the source of the payment is. So, if you have a friend in South Africa and you're trying to give them a game, if you pay for it inside the United States and then you give it to the account of a South African, the payment would have gone through the United States. So
as long as the
theory,
United States version of morals and ethics is applied there, they can get the game.
I don't want to say definitively one way or another, but I believe so.
Hypothetically, I'm working.
Hypothetically, I would. Yeah, okay. I would believe so. Okay. I mean, again, I'm not gonna, don't quote me on that.
But we're just we're exploring a thought. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay, let's dig back into this.
Mastercard can revoke your ability to process transactions and impose a 200 grand fine. And that's where this all falls apart. It's also why Rule 15 exists on Steam. That was the rule, if you remember, basically said any content that may break payment processor rules, that Valve basically can kick that off.
So yeah, what this says specifically is Rule 15, content that may violate the rules and standards set forth by Steam's payment processors and related card networks and banks or internet network providers, in particular, certain kinds of adult-only content. So anything that may violate the rules. Interesting word.
Off Steam. Because, well, turns out this, what we just talked about, explains why Valve said may break. Really blows. Now, the content that's been removed, well, unless you're in specific territories looking at specific games, it's legal. And this is where Stripe then come in. Stripe confirmed this in their response to Itch. They said they can't process anything related to gratification. And the reason why? Well, according to Stripe, it's restrictions placed on them by their banking partners. Not by the law, by banking partners, because ultimately it's about risk management. It's PR risk of being targeted by groups like Collective Shout, so hello again to you guys. But there's also a higher risk of chargebacks on adult products, and this would be one of the unit economic problems that we'd be dealing with here. And as GameIndustry.biz highlighted, basically they're losing money on refunds from embarrassed customers. But I think what's kind of key is that over these last few weeks, the real challenge to this whole system has actually been you. Turns out rebellions can kind of work, so the internet exploded with stories.
Okay, so that that kind of gets into people calling Mastercard and Visa, and I believe rightfully so, because if you're using these processes and these companies, like, I don't feel that the response they gave addressing the public was good enough for me. I guess what maybe I would expect out of a company, because they have an immense amount of control over my life, but I don't feel like a canned response or any lack of really trying to connect gives me confidence that they have my best interests at heart. And that's just me as a person.
They don't have your best interest at heart. They have the best interest of their investors in mind. And that gets deep into the morality of, capitalism and everything else. I'm not going to sit here and debate the different economic systems, but the fact that these major corporations are now trying to, assert their individual morality, or very possibly using that as an excuse to stop getting these chargebacks, like he just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't be surprised if that would actually be some of the major underlining motivation. Is because every chargeback, they have it's money that goes through. It has to go back through the system.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference is that by law, I believe, the banks can't necessarily, the payment processors can't do a charge on the chargeback for it to go on back through, because it's kind of like you can't really tax something when money is returned. If technically the money was never spent.
So is this maybe a process problem?
I don't know. And I could also be wrong on that as well. I actually do believe there are fees for, are there fees?
Kind of like restocking a shelf for an item at a store.
Yeah, the restocking fees, which that in itself has a legal gray area as well, in my opinion. I could actually, I might need to take back what I said about the, because I do recall that there are certain fees that can be applied to certain goods, depending. Okay, well, I don't want to dive too deep into that because, again, NDA.
I'm assuming that would be like perishable or something that like would lose value inherently the longer it's away from wherever it's being sold.
That's a good example.
Okay.
But then again, there's also that contract that if you shop at this specific location that has perishable goods, they will not, take it back under any circumstance, short of, recalls or something like that through the government. So.
Okay. You said the other video, the one that you had. Is
Yeah,
there?
the Valve response to PayPal banning
Yeah.
Steam.
How much of this would you like to go over?
I haven't actually. Just let me see if I could find a good point because I haven't. There's not really. I mean, I kind of already touched on the big things. Give me a sec here to see if I could find a specific location that might talk about it.
I mean, we can
Uh,
play the whole thing. I just want to make sure that we can comment as we go through it. It is only 6 minutes, and I don't feel like that's too crazy.
yeah, just play it. We'll just kind
Okay.
of comment as we go through it like before.
Okay, sweet.
If you've tried to buy a game on Steam recently, you might have seen this message. Valve has announced the removal of PayPal as a payment option in many countries. This is not a bug or a mistake, it's part of a bigger problem. The biggest question is, why is this only happening in certain countries? Now, you might remember 1 month ago when we first talked about the collective shout, Steam adding a new rule, and the mass removal of games, that it seemed like PayPal was involved. This is because right at that same time, it seemingly stopped working. It was unknown if this was some bug, a coincidence, or actually related to the situation. Now, when you try to use PayPal in an unavailable country, you get this official statement from Valve. Steam stated in early July 2025, PayPal notified Valve that the requiring bank for payment transactions in certain currencies was immediately terminating the process of any transactions related to Steam. This is important because an acquiring bank is the bank that handles payments on a company's side.
stop.
Think of it as the bank that collects.
Okay.
Kind of looking at that anatomy of a transaction. That's actually a really good way to look at it because you see like the Visa, Mastercard, Discover, and Amex kind of in there in the center there with the card networks. The interesting thing about that is because Discover and American Express are their own bank, they really don't have an acquiring bank because they are their own bank. I won't get into the deep dive into how that works versus Visa or Mastercard, but it's interesting that if you think about it, you haven't heard a damn thing from Discover or Mastercard or Discover or American Express, have you? It's all been Visa and Mastercard.
Because they already have the power to decide for themselves.
More of they don't have the same excuse, in my opinion, because they are the bank. Whereas Visa and Mastercard are basically the most used credit card, processors in the world.
Yeah.
They are the backbone of the majority of the credit card purchases because Visa and Mastercard have the lion's share over Discover and American Express. And the difference is that American Express and Discover make their money by using banking methods versus charging fees like Visa and Mastercard do. Discover and American Express also have their fees, and a lot of their fees are actually more expensive than Visa and Mastercard. But there is more security with the money being transferred between using Discover and American Express networks. So there are trade-offs with everything.
I never knew that they were split out that way. That's very useful information.
That's in general. I mean, that's there. I always second guess myself when I try to talk about that, but that is at a very, very basic level.
We're not trying to come from positions of we know everything. It's like
this
is what we feel.
I like to caveat saying, I don't want to speak from a position of authority when I don't have that authority.
Right.
So it's just based off information that I can recall from my 8 years in the banking industry, where I worked with the back end systems versus the actual laws and regulations that go into it. So I do have some basic knowledge of how it all works, and I had to. But anyways, moving on.
Okay, good to go.
I'm trying to, I guess the thing I'm trying to say is the touching on the fact that the Discover and American Express are not joining into this because they don't have a really good way to kind of force that conversation onto other payment processors. But they have partners with other banks, but they're not there. They can't necessarily enforce their standards on those partners because it's kind of like if you go through your personal bank and you get a card that utilizes the American Express network, it is still basically the money is changing hands from your bank to American Express bank to the uh, bank of where the money's being sent to. So there's a few more intermediaries in there, but it is also significantly more secure
Mm.
and guaranteed. So, but anyways, but yeah, it's interesting that that is not something that many people are talking about, is the fact that Visa and Mastercard are the only ones you're hearing about. So
That's a good
go ahead.
point.
That's it.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Collects the money for Steam. They go on to say this affects currencies other than Euro, Canadian dollar, British pound, Japanese yen, Australian dollar, and the United States dollar. This means that for every other currency in the world, PayPal is no longer a payment option to buy Steam games. They continue by saying, "We hope to offer PayPal as an option for these currencies in the future, but the timeline is uncertain. We're also evaluating adding additional payment methods on Steam for the customers affected by this. In the meantime,
Which is gonna
please
be a
use one
problem.
of our other current payment methods."
Sorry.
No, I was just making the comment that's going to be a problem for them. They're not going to be able to do it very well because of they're going to explain it. To go ahead, to continue. I was just making a
It's
comment.
during checkout. If you can't use any of the available options, you can consider using a Steam wallet code to add funds to your account. This confirms that
Which
they
is
are
interesting.
actively
Actually,
trying to
Steam
fix a
wallet code?
problem that they did.
The Steam wallet code, if I understand, is like going somewhere, paying money to get basically a card, a prepaid card, and then putting it onto the account. So that actually circumvents the initial payment processor and would actually go around the rules.
Oh, you're talking
Because you're
about going
not
to like the convenience store and getting a Steam card.
correct.
Okay.
So you can essentially do that because because if you go to, I'm just going to say 7-Eleven or whatever, and they have a Steam card there, or Walmart actually would be a better example, and you purchase the Steam card, there's no direct tie to any specific product that's being purchased because you're just buying funds.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, you're exchanging funds. That's all that is,
Right.
and putting it into the network. So at that point, you would be able to still be able to purchase all these different games. You just wouldn't be able to do it directly. And that would actually create a separation between, the payment processors, and they wouldn't be able to do their rules. I think I just repeated myself there. I was trying to say something else I forgot I was going to say, but that's it. So, but this may end up becoming a way to circumvent everything, but it's an additional step, and you actually have to go out and physically, which is a problem for a lot of gamers, go into a physical brick and mortar store to get the funds you want for the games that you want, and
But I want to
then on top of that,
I want to follow
yeah.
that logic to its final stage. Let's just
Sure.
say that becomes the only way to buy any game that you want, or the only way to purchase anything. Doesn't that just create the next gate that needs, or the next goalpost that needs to be reached for whatever is trying to happen? Then they just stop you from, oh, well, you can't sell that in the store because that might be used for something else.
Yeah, the key word you just used there was might. And when they get to that legal nomenclature is when shit really hits the fan. Because anything, any money, any transaction might be something else.
No way.
Something else. So yeah.
No way.
That is a natural conclusion to asserting a significant amount of control, and like we could start going down a central bank digital currency and
God.
CBDC, and that is basically guaranteeing control over the populace, which is kind of one of the rabbit holes and one of the paths that this is trying to start to go down.
I mean,
because,
if you had everyone working under one currency, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you just apply that same concept to just this Steam, Valve, Mastercard situation, like they could control everything that you want to buy, not just your game, everything.
Well, and also remove you from the system if you don't do what they want you to do.
Oh yeah, you know that
Completely.
that nice digital number you have in your bank
Mhm.
account, it's now 0. Wait, have you seen that South Park? And it's gone.
Yep.
Oh,
No, I mean, it's essentially what could happen. I mean, if you don't have any kind of physical manifestation of value and you're trying to get something else that is a physical manifestation of something like food or whatever, and they just turn that off and remove you from the system, you know, there's nothing you can do about it.
all right. I just kind of have to do this.
Do I really have?
I'm just gonna play this quick little clip of South Park just because it's so damn relevant.
Eh.
No.
I would say let's just move on. I mean, I
All
understand what you're
right.
trying to say.
All right. And it's gone.
That's even better.
All right. I'll go ahead and move on in this then. Are you good to move on through the video?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, that's
did not
something I
create.
want to touch on.
But this statement also leaves us with a massive question. If the problem is with Steam's content, why would the bank only care about certain currencies? Why is PayPal still working perfectly fine in big markets like the US and the EU? One person on Reddit decided to call PayPal's customer service in Poland to get an answer. The lady insisted I contact Steam because they were the ones who pulled the plug because Steam prefers customers to use their balance. When the user read the official Steam message to the rep, she became irritated and hung up. Does this sound familiar? Because it
That sounds like most of the responses that people got from trying to reach out to MasterCard and Visa. So like how can they I guess my question is this, if you can't respond to like real people's concerns and like AI is not going to cut it, like are you too big to actually service the size that you're intending to? I feel like it becomes a service issue at this point. Because if I can't clearly get a response or field my concern or them not be willing to hear it, they don't have the capacity to handle all of the human elements of this problem.
Or is it more of they have the capacity, but they're just choosing not to engage with it?
Well, I truly don't think that they have the capacity, because even if you run a call center and you have thousands of people calling in, those people will not get anything done at their job. And they would have
Yeah,
to they'd have to hire more people. But like, I think, does that mean that they just need to hire more people so they can field these calls? Would that change the situation at all?
absolutely not. Because they're going to keep getting the same responses. They're actually getting separate responses from the same company as well. I don't recall exactly the differences, but there was multiple threads, has been covered in a couple other videos that I saw, of they were getting dramatically different responses to, such as one blaming Valve, another one blaming the bank, another one directly quoting the Mastercard, rule that's been mentioned multiple times, and saying that this was a decision by Mastercard, so that they are not adequately trained in order to handle this situation. So I guess it is supporting of your fact there, but they really just don't give a shit enough to train them enough to fix this problem or to address it, because there is no viable recourse that the public has to push back, because what are you going to do? Not go buy food with the credit card, that because you don't have access to hundreds of dollars easily without going to the ATM, that you also have to use a Visa or MasterCard tied to the system in order to pull out. They have everyone by the balls and they know it, so they don't give a shit.
And I
They're
guess,
not really caring.
yeah, I guess maybe that's where that ties into. Like, I think objectively you can say, just by this example, they don't have the power to respond to all of their customers' needs in an actual real situation. Let's just say something seriously happened and customers needed to call in for a bunch of fraud allegations or all that other stuff. Are they not going to be able to field those and respond to their customers?
That's a different department.
I know it's a different department, but it's still
the separation. It's a compartmentalization
I
of it
agree.
all. So they don't have. I mean, it's like an apples to orange type situation.
Yes,
in
it
my opinion.
is.
You're not wrong,
Right.
but it's just they don't have the people because they don't typically get a massive amount of ethics calls because this is the ethics line that they are by law supposed to have whenever the ethics complaint happens.
And
However,
their response to the ethics problems is just to hang up or give a blank statement.
pretty much
That's simply unacceptable from any kind of relationship that I want to have with a business.
yeah, but they also know that you don't have a choice.
So what's the way out?
So
If there is no choice, what could people? Let's just say in a perfect world, let's just say everybody heard this conversation, everybody agrees, and we all came together. Let's say we had millions of people. What could we
pressure
do?
the government. The only way you can is to have the body who controls the legal system enact the will of the people. The problem is that God, that's another fucking rabbit hole to go down with moving things into laws and everything else, and
Yeah.
you start getting into the lobbyists and everything
Then you
else.
start
So,
getting into people doing things for their own agenda and then being bought off, and there's those secret side deals, which we'll cover that one here in a second.
yeah. So the problem is like I was talking to you before in the past. This is one of many symptoms of the much larger problem, the much larger thing that's coming down the pipeline. So we are beginning to see the beginnings of something that is coming. So,
Yeah,
but
there's definitely pieces moving on the board that weren't before from just a larger perspective, even though it's very hard to kind of detail those.
And I'll talk more about that later. But yeah, go ahead, move on.
Okay.
Should. This is the same thing we saw with Mastercard and Visa. When those companies put pressure on Steam, they then publicly denied it. So Valve had to be the one to tell the public the truth. It's clear that PayPal is now doing the same thing, blaming Steam to avoid talking about their own actions. When you put all the facts together, it shows a clear connection. This is a bigger plan to control what people can and can't buy online. For this Steam situation, it all began with an activist group asking payment companies to stop handling payments for games with sexually explicit content. Mastercard and Visa were some of the first to act, which led to Steam's new rule. Mastercard denied doing this, but Valve's statement proved they were the ones responsible. At that exact same time, the game store itch.io had its payment services with Stripe removed. Stripe's statement was clear, saying it couldn't support this kind of content because of its banking partners. This proves that these banks and payment companies are indeed the ones stopping the payments. Now we have the exact same thing happening with PayPal. A bank on PayPal's side has ended its agreement with Steam. The fact that all these events happened at the same time makes it impossible to think that this is just some wild coincidence. Now, you might be wondering, why was PayPal only removed for some countries? They start by making changes in smaller markets with fewer legal protections. This allows them...
Crap. Now I forgot what I was going to say. Okay, I remember now. The fact that everything is happening all at once with a bunch of different events that are happening around the world in and around censorship.
The world is nuts right now. Yeah.
Yeah, there's one thing that a lot of people fail in general at, and it's the different levels of thinking. The first order, second order, third order thinking, everything else like that. I'm not going to define and break down the difference.
That's fine.
Other than the first level is not being able to see beyond the surface level of an event or information.
Just looking at an event, taking it as it is what it is, and there's no fallout, there's nothing else it's going to be as a result
or looking at connections that it could possibly be to other events that are seemingly unrelated.
Fair enough.
And that is by design. The school systems of the West specifically, not so much of like in the East and the Asian countries, because they're significantly better at the West than this, is being able to look at pieces of information, like I said, that appear to be separated and not draw any kind of possible conclusion of some kind of collusion between certain events. And kind of the whole like an example of, to briefly touch on it, the whole Trump and Putin talk yesterday.
Okay.
I mean, this is going to be a very loose example here, but the censorship push that is currently going, both inside the United States and significantly in Europe right now, especially in the UK with Keir Starmer, and oh, fuck that guy. But, oh, seriously, anyways, the fact that they are trying to push, I say they is a very general term, push this huge amount of censorship onto the world, including the United States, who is basically saying, stop. We do not agree with this, as well as of course, you got the migrant influx of everything going on in Europe.
Wait a
And
second. Wait
it's
a
just,
second. Didn't I see something where like Trump was standing next to someone and he was saying how he loves free speech so much, and the other guy was like, "Absolutely, we love free speech in Europe."
yeah, that's Keir Starmer. Yeah, that's the
That was
piece of
hilarious
shit.
as hell.
So, yeah, it's all about control. There is, like, going back to what I was alluding before, the amount of triggers that are being pulled all simultaneously, all at once around the world in various different avenues and various different locations and various different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Something's about to happen.
Do you want to go down a rabbit hole?
The problem is, like I was describing to you before, they're all roads connecting together to one road that's running straight into a brick wall I can't look over. I don't know what is going to happen.
I don't know. But what's the common denominator? I know what I believe I know what the common denominator is between all of this stuff. At least as far as like one element of it that actually ties it all together.
I mean, if we talk about the New World Order, would probably be the easiest one to, that rabbit hole to go down.
Well, yeah, that's going down
But
like that kind of like the globalist concept. I mean, something tangible
yeah,
right now that you know what? Let's go ahead and just jump into this next video. just for
yeah. Okay.
Chibi
Oh,
reviews.
yeah, this one. Go ahead. Yeah,
Chibi
this is one
reviews.
I have not seen, so I have no idea what's happening here. So go ahead.
I'm just gonna go ahead and do like the first little bit of it, just so you can see this. But I just kind of want to go over what he has on the list, and this is actually we'll let him talk about it first, so he can present it, and then we
Yeah.
can kind of dig into it.
How does this even happen? How does the Roblox situation connect with the payment processors like Visa and Mastercard and PayPal, and also connect with online safety acts like the UK Online Safety Act, what's going on in America right now with the Kids Online Safety Act, the Screen Act, what's going on also in Canada, Australia, EU? How in the hell
Triggers
is this all connected now?
all at once.
I'm just... Let me just speed run and get everybody up to speed before I get into the conversation.
So I just want to go over. I was just going to read real quick the list that he has presented here on screen, just for the audio only. It says these are all have like a caret in front of them, so I'll just read them one line at a time.
4chan green text looking thing.
Yeah. So there was a demand for the Epstein list, and then after that, everyone was called crazy for wanting it released. And then collective shout appears. Payment processors censor anime and games. UK Online Safety Act comes into effect to censor adults. Australian, European, USA, and Canada do similar acts. Multiple companies jump on the bandwagon to force ID. PayPal removed from Steam. Roblox scandal gets government attention instantly. Weird. Roblox VP of Civility and Partnerships works with online safety organizations. Okay. Multiple tech companies on those boards with the VP are companies wanting forced ID. So that's what's presented on screen. We'll let him.
Of this video. First off, we have demand for the Epstein list.
Oh, I guess he
Basically,
read
the
it.
internet and everybody online and multiple companies jump on the bandwagon to force in America suing Roblox. You have them being investigated by the government.
So the U.S. is suing Roblox now, right?
I think the state of Louisiana. That's the right.
You're right.
one.
It
Like,
is.
the
It's
actual
Louisiana.
State
Yeah.
is suing them. Yeah.
Children in Louisiana. Yeah.
Roblox is
Yep, it
getting
is. I see it there.
investigated. So back into this, you have instantly the government's attention notices Roblox. So like the government notices them. Then
Which
Roblox's
stop.
VP of Civil Team.
That just screams projection. the fact that the government is instantly jumping in on this against Roblox
When does the government ever jump in on something like this?
at the speed at which it has, and especially after the Epstein list and everything else. Yeah, so this is definitely getting to deep conspiracy territory.
So yeah,
But this screams projection. Like they are trying to do whatever they can to show that they are against all of the, pedophiles and everything else. Excuse me, PDF files that are on the, utilizing Roblox and everything else to do their whatever.
I mean, politically
And
speaking, it would be wise to try to do that.
yes, but why all of a sudden now?
Yeah. Is there anything other than just the good intuition to, hey, this would be something that I can get behind, that the majority of people are like, no, like if you're going to do that to kids, like something should, I'm not going to be upset what happens to you.
Yeah, for the devil's advocate on that, you are absolutely correct as well. That is also the plausible deniability of it.
Mm-hmm.
It is. I mean, Occam's razor would suggest what you said would be correct because that is the most likely outcome. But the problem is, again, it just goes into the first, second, third order thinking. Is everything is like what he is doing is second to third order thinking.
Exactly.
So this is a great fucking example of what I was talking about. So go ahead.
Okay.
In partnerships, works with online safety organizations. Multiple tech companies on these boards with the VP, aka the VP of Roblox, are companies wanting forced ID. If you don't,
Now that goes into the digital ID. That goes into the global system.
Yep.
And I mean, everyone's saying that's going to be forced on us. And if people are, especially the younger generation, a lot of people these days that don't view security in a similar fashion. I think that, I mean, there's always going to be an inverse correlation, right? The more secure you want something, the less accessible it's going to be. But in this aspect, the more security you want, the less freedom you will have. And that will, and that goes into freedom of thought. That's the biggest concern.
Yes, I think that's the nail. You hit the nail on the head. It's the controlling the narrative, controlling the way people think, and controlling the populace, which has always been the goal of anyone who wants any kind of power, is to control over everybody else so they can do whatever the hell they want and force everybody else to bend to their will. That's just the core fundamental evilness of human nature. And one of the reasons why religion came about to fight against that. Then again, there's certain anyways, I'm not going to go down that fucking rabbit hole.
Not yet.
Yeah, but it's all about control. They are trying to. I like we keep saying they without actually defining who they are, but I don't think we need to define who they are as an abstract concept. But it's all about control. They are. This is also one of the reasons why I think that something big is about to happen, is because they are trying to force a maximum amount of control over the whole world at once.
And it comes in waves. It's interesting.
It has been coming in waves. The problem is that waves are now the time between the tsunami waves are becoming shorter and shorter.
Exactly.
And
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Bigger.
That's exactly what I was thinking. All right. So with this person, he actually does a really good job, and I feel this is important. So I want to cover quite a bit of this video, if that's okay.
Yeah, do your thing.
I don't believe this part about the VP. Let's show you. This is Tammy. This is the VP of Civility and Partnerships of Roblox and is on the FOSI board chair. Let's read her description real quick to kind of get a good understanding of what she does, for we're all on the same page. Tammy is the Vice President of Civility and Partnerships at Roblox, where she spearheads the platform's digital civility initiative and works to foster a global community of internet safety leaders to ensure good digital citizenship on Roblox. To establish a healthy and safety community, Tammy is focused on providing kids, teens, parents, and caregivers with skills needed to create positive online experiences in partnership with the world's leading safety and industry organizations. At Roblox, she empowers platforms to use self-govern and create a confident, resilient online community with the knowledge and tools to create positive experiences for themselves and others in the metaverse.
That's interesting.
Why do you find that interesting?
Well, first, that ensure good digital citizenship. So there is,
Social credit score.
well, yes, that wasn't what I was going to go down.
Hmm.
You're not wrong there. How do I say this? Specific nomenclature, when it is used, drives and manipulates thought.
Yep.
And when you use specific wording, such as ensures good digital citizenship, it
Mhm.
imparts a certain degree of suggestion into the conscious and subconscious of basically anyone who understands the words are being said.
Yep.
There's a sense, I can't think of a better way to describe it, that I have that like the voice is the echo of the soul. And whenever you hear words or whatever, it resonates within, one spirit or one soul. I'm kind of getting into like a meta narrative here. And there's also, God, this is the rabbit hole. The whole suggestion and the whole, God, I'm not saying I believe this, but this is a rabbit hole I do go down. The casting of spells over a populace. That, when you start getting into the occult and the ones who really run the world and
I mean,
who
if you want
Jeffrey
to get
actually
into the
was,
occult, then I
but
mean, that's fine. If you're going to get
that's,
into the occult, I think that you should, as long as you can acknowledge, good and evil. I
yeah,
mean,
it's,
is there room for magic to exist? I don't see why
well,
not.
let's save that for another
Fair enough.
conversation. It's just, I'm touching base with that here because the wording of this woman's bio screams like
it's
it's,
constructed very well and intentionally to spread a
yes,
very specific message.
yes.
Yeah. The word
And
that I attach to stuff like this is schmarmy.
well, I don't understand the definition of the context what you're saying that.
But you're saying the way that it's constructed and the words used are intended to convey a very specific intentful message
Yes,
under
it's also
under the
coded.
guise of plausible deniability, giving you the protection
Hmm.
but still allowing you to promote whatever you are trying to pursue.
Yes,
Mhm.
but it's also coded.
Right.
Um, so I just want to kind of lay that seed for now, um, because I guess to one last touch on the whole occult thing is there's supposedly a rule that exists within this universe where evil intentions must be said out loud and conveyed. They must tell you their plans in order for them to succeed, because that is the casting of the spell.
Interesting.
And the fact that you have this woman, the fact that what her title, what her responsibilities are, and the fact that there was a significant um, PDF file presence within Roblox to an extent where the government is now getting involved. Jesus Christ.
It's okay.
This is,
Just wait. Your mind's about to get blown here soon. You ready?
yeah, go ahead, go ahead. But yeah, that's just,
So
so that's probably the biggest red flag I've seen today. Go ahead, continue.
it gets worse.
It doesn't just stop here. We have this I'm going to show. Let me pull this up. Mastercard and Visa are partners with Roblox.
Can I just do my face test? There we go.
Do what?
It's No, I mean, it was me stopping my hand on my desk, but I just want a face desk because of everything I just said. I had no idea this was coming. Fucking A. Go ahead,
I
continue.
told you it wasn't done yet.
God
I tried to
damn.
warn you.
Continue.
All right.
Then it gets much worse than that.
What?
We have politicians.
Dude, you just get ready for a couple of layers here. Just
Yeah,
get
turn
ready.
up the sound a little bit. Actually, I should probably do it on my side.
Oh, I turned it up. It was down a little bit.
I turned up my
Actively,
side as
within
well.
the last month, trading Roblox stock. At first glance, this might seem like a nothing burger, but it's much more than that. If you take a look at the names, obviously, if we want to ignore Nancy Pelosi and stuff like that, we need to look at the recent one. June
bitch.
of this year. Jim Banks. Now, you're probably
Jim Banks. Who's Jim Banks? Indiana, right?
No idea.
Senator, Indiana.
wondering who
Okay, I'll
is
take
Jim
your word
Banks.
for it.
Well,
Me and names don't get along, so.
Screen Act.
Oh,
Jim Banks. It does stop there. The Kids Online Safety Act.
Jim Banks.
Jim Banks. One of the co-sponsors out of the 40 co-sponsors. And what makes this even crazier, he is one of the newer co-sponsors. The newer co-sponsors. AKA after the drama hit, with all of like the drama with online safety and forcing ID, he decided to get into the ring with the Kids Online Safety Act. So this is after the collective internet was aware of what was going on, but decided to join in. And what makes this even crazier is because this points to what I just talked about earlier. That instantly, the government gained notice of what was going on with Roblox and initiated like a lawsuit, an investigation, all this.
Projection.
But
so much projection. It's just so much fucking projection. Like they are trying to cover their ass and make it and shift the Eye of Sauron away from them.
Do you think it's more posturing?
It could be, but I mean, my cynical, pessimistic, it could be a lot. Well, to what you said there, why would they be posturing this way? Do you think?
Well, I mean, posturing this way to create the guise of what side they're on.
Which, with the sequence of events as he is outlining here,
They're using this as the, hey, we want to protect kids.
Yeah, and I mean, I could start making parallels to what Hitler said in Nazi Germany when, taking away of the guns to protect the children.
I don't think we're ready for
So-
Nazi stuff yet. Let's wait for the next
No,
episode.
no, I'm not saying anything. I'm not trying to
I'm
go down that hole, or they're just using that as a parallel of government control from that within that context.
Right.
It's whenever a government tries to go in, you can do the same thing with Mao in China. Is that they try to use children and appeal to an emotional argument versus over a logical argument to get what they want.
Emotional blackmail.
And this is what is currently happening. But the problem is that as he even did in the beginning of the video here, where he talked about the Epstein list, was the number one thing up top, which I think everything connects back to that, or at least the conspiracy, for lack of a better term, that involves that. And how big that is. But go ahead, continue. Sorry.
Fair enough.
God, you had me going down a fucking go. Just sorry, go.
Actively ignore everything else that's been ongoing. But it's so much worse than that. Let's go further. This is the legendary Madam Savvy that's actively been helping the conversation around payment processors,
She's cool.
the censorship of the internet, war basically.
You know Madam Sevi?
Yeah, I've watched a few of her videos. She's on point. Go ahead.
I know nothing about her. Can you get your opinion?
I mean, I don't know much beyond the fact that she's a YouTube personality, but she has been covering a lot of what he's talking about now and gone into a couple of deep dives about it. So she is one of those people who are very well, let's say, have a high aptitude for research and disseminating the information in a digestible manner.
Okay, so maybe someone good to follow then. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
She has some good. I don't agree with everything, but she has a lot of good points.
I'm never going to agree with anybody about 100% of anything. So
Yeah. force of habit to say it. Go ahead.
On the internet, bringing to light what Collective Shout has been doing, what these, Visa and Mastercard's been doing, what Roblox has been doing, and what all these different CEOs, etc. have been doing. They've been actively investigating, researching, and pitching in all the information they can, pulling it together in their post, and this is what they found today. And I'm going to cover it, because when you see this, this is the monsters we're dealing with. This showcases how everything going on is just... You're gonna be... I might be called crazy. It's fine if you call me crazy or I'm a conspiracy theorist.
This, I just want to comment on his demeanor and the way he is being extremely emotive and animated. Typically, when someone is acting in the manner he has, he truly, to his core, believes what he's about to say. And considering what I have seen of this guy in the past,
He seems
and the way
authentic.
he is exceedingly authentic.
He comes across very authentic, well-spoken, researched, logical.
But it's specifically the way that he is
Talking
acting
about his body
and the
movements?
passion. I mean, yes. I mean, all of it.
All right, let's back it up a little bit.
I mean, no, you don't need to back it up. I'm just commenting the fact that what he is about to say, he truly believes. And go ahead. Just I'll leave it at that.
Based on his mannerisms and his body positioning and kind of just what he's giving off.
Yeah, and I also have just that sixth sense of this. Go ahead. I'll just leave it at that.
I understand what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Pulling it together in their post, and this is what they found today. And I'm going to cover it, because when you see this, this is the monsters we're dealing with. This showcases how everything going on is just... You're going to be... I might be called crazy. It's fine if you call me crazy or I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I want to show this again before I read this.
Honestly, just on that note, like, given the last couple of years, if someone calls you a conspiracy theorist, it's kind of a badge of honor. Just saying.
I guess as a side note, do you know how the conspiracy theorist term came about?
Wasn't it because of political stuff?
Well, there's a deeper defining reason, but yes, it is political. But it was basically it was created by the CIA in order to discredit anything that they did not want the public to believe.
Oh, so
it was a term that, yeah, it was thrust. It was basically, the leaders of the different news networks, the owners of it, basically, of course, for CIA assets, and the CIA tapped them to begin pushing this narrative of conspiracy theorists with a negative connotation, which then destroyed the credibility of a lot of the actual conspiracies.
Right, because it allowed, I would probably say, the mainstream sources of information to attach that with
the narrative.
Yeah, and that goes into, I would probably even say Mockingbird. I'd say they align
well into Mockingbird.
Yeah.
So yeah. Go ahead.
Okay.
This happening within just like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You're not.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point.
And what I was saying before, yeah.
Like that big thing that's coming. All this shit happened in 3 weeks, dude. What?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, I've been saying it for years that something is coming. How do I say this? I've known something is coming. It's one of the reasons why I moved out to the middle of fucking nowhere. And I don't know what it is. I have multiple different theories that I could, eventually talk about, which I'm also somewhat going to be very careful because of my previous life to say.
As a frog?
But
were you a frog in the previous life?
Yeah. I was one of Scholarly Frog's children, right? Anywho.
I love that idea.
No, not even. Don't. Cut that from the fucking pod. Anyways, continue.
No. Okay, what can you do?
You're gonna look me in the eye, or look into the camera or the screen right now, look at me, and straight up comment down below and say that this is just a coincidence. This does not just happen. I can understand maybe 1 or 2 or 3 things, but you're not telling me, with everyone involved, all these different companies involved, these tech companies involved, and everything that's been ongoing, you're not telling me there's not a pattern, there is not
like how would they respond to these things in such a fast amount of time?
They don't.
These things would have to. These things would take planning to get all the pieces lined up.
Well, it reminds me of the Futurama episode where, forget the Jamaican guy, what his name is. He is a part of that organization. It's a bureaucracy, and they have the different levels. And like he makes a comments about how slow everything is, and essentially, of course, we exist in a giant bureaucracy, and it is designed to be slow. Although they've been changing things to increase the speed of it, but that's a different topic.
Right.
So the fact that everything is happening within bureaucracies that are designed to be slow at such a rapid pace is indicative of a larger scenario that is unfolding.
The process chain is being changed or used incorrectly or intentionally incorrectly.
Or they're just speeding up or forcing through the processes at a faster rate. It can, although on the other side of the coin, it can be argued with the increase in technology and internet and everything else, it just makes it easier to increase the speed of everything versus literal papers being passed back and forth.
I don't know,
electronically.
Man. In my life experience working with any kind of agency like that, none of them have gotten better or more efficient with technology. None of them.
Which was gonna be my next point on that. Yes, that I again, devil's advocate in that regard. Just that there are multiple perspectives here to consider.
There are, yeah.
Of course, it's obvious the bias that which we're showing on which perspective we think is most likely. But anywho, continue.
Well, I mean, we come from 2 completely different backgrounds, and we seem to overlap quite a bit.
Yeah,
and that's good.
When you have pragmatic and intelligent individuals, not to put myself on a pedestal.
Hey, don't give me compliments.
Yeah, like you constantly give me compliments, asshole.
Anyway, hey, listen, you're my treasure, okay? You shush.
Dude, no, don't.
You keep it up, I'm gonna pull out the blanket. Let's go. All right, we'll go.
Actions between all of this that obviously are trying to push a narrative of censoring the internet and taking away your freedom of speech, your freedom of expression.
Okay, just because I have to acknowledge, like, that poster he has in the background is nice.
To monitor you, to sell your data.
I'm just saying, like, you gotta call it when you see it.
It's very obvious, and there is so much reason to believe that. But let's look at what Madam Savvy had to show here first. So industry capture is an understatement. When you have communication heads from Verizon, T-Mobile, AT&T, and not only part of FOSI, but also a rating board. So yeah, if you didn't catch that, FOSI is the Family Online Safety Institute, which I'm pulling up here. This is FOSI. And once again, for those that don't remember, I know you remember, but I'm going to pull it up. Tammy, which is the VP of Civility and Partnerships at Roblox, is a part of the FOSI board. Obviously trying to push the narrative of online.
Did you say pause?
Yeah, I did. The amount of non-governmental organizations that had their hands in this is absurd.
You talking about the FOSI?
Yeah, I mean that's one example. It's just all the different organizations that these people are a part of, and it's ticking so many boxes in the way that information is traveling, and how secretive a lot of these organizations are at the highest levels.
Mm-hmm.
It's adding more fuel, more gasoline to the already giant inferno in my head about something that's coming.
Well, I think NGOs, I believe, are being used as a conduit to achieve change that is not normally allowed in a governmental structure.
Correct, that is something that is actually becoming more mainstream. The view, I should say, is becoming more mainstream thanks to Doge. Well, at least within the terms of people with common sense and have a pragmatic or analytical capability of some nature outside of regurgitation taught in schools. Sorry, that's a sensitive nerve there. Go ahead, continue.
That's fine.
And potentially force like online verification with ID, data collection. You get the point. That's what we're dealing with here. So basically, that's what Madam Savvy's saying. So you have Verizon, T-Mobile, AT&T are part of FOCI as well. They're also a part of a rating board. It makes you ask questions. Fred, though, showing a small glimpse into Tammy's web and how it connects even to ESRB and the actual industry influence these people have. FOCI, interesting things to note. For the low price of $15,000, you can hop on into the Cool Kids Club that feature all the tops from all your favorite companies like Microsoft, Nintendo of America, Sony, Disney, AT&T, Verizon, Discord, TikTok, Tencent,
Discord?
Google, and more in fact.
I wasn't expecting Discord to be on that list.
I'm not going to go down that. We'll continue.
You'll never know who you will find and what kind of background they have. Makes you wonder why they're all getting involved in certain things. Here's what she mentions. So you can become a member of this board or get a membership for the Cool Kids Club, so to speak, if you do the low price of $15,000. Then, these are the people that are on the board, from what Savvy can kind of pull up. And if you take a look here on the bottom right of this picture, I might move my camera around or even make it disappear for you can see. These individuals are all affiliated in some form of massive company. Google, Netflix, you have Microsoft, you have Epic Games, Roblox, obviously. You can see the affiliation with these massive companies, which is red flag. Massive red flag, especially a lot of these companies are connected with FOCI, connected with age verification and online safety. You get where I'm getting at. Then, you got this. This is Tammy, the same individual I just showed earlier. That is the VP for Roblox and stuff. You can see her connections. She's a board member of a tech coalition with multiple tech coalitions and stuff wanting online safety and everything like that, but actively has ignored the issues going on with Roblox for years. Think about that. Then,
that's an interesting thought.
It goes back to my projection statements.
Yep.
It gets much worse. We have Courtney here, which we have Madam Savvy. She actually talks about this in a second, which I'm going to scroll down and let you read. She talks about Tammy in this little description, which I've kind of already covered mostly. Wait, let's see here. Yeah, here it is. She talks about Tammy. Tammy helped give insight into what teens want, noting how teens want more stories with friendship and...
What?
I'm laughing at what teens want. It's always somebody else with a holier-than-thou mentality that says that this is what other people want. This is putting the words into the mouths of people who can't speak for themselves. The manipulation, and it's actually a narcissist trait.
This is a pattern that this structure you're calling it out completely correctly, from my opinion.
Yeah. It also goes into that whole, saying words like, voice of the echo of the soul type of thing. Like they're forcing these words to be spoken by people who don't necessarily believe it, because if you are forced to say it, then you tend to believe it.
Well, but they're also putting all of the responsibility and decision on those teens, allegedly, that...
Yeah,
there's no way to verify that. How do you know this? You went to an ice cream parlor and you talked to some, or what?
Yeah, it's more projection. It's more of controlling and manipulating the narrative.
So is that this person's view, or is that kind of the larger perspective view, like the larger, what appears to be direction that this person wants the world to go in?
I mean, obviously, we can talk about the, it's obviously the organization is trying to move everything in this direction. And again, it's always utilizing the children in order to make the emotional versus logical arguments, because a vast majority of the people nowadays, that's how they communicate, is through emotional arguments. But anyways, this is just more fuel to the fire.
Fair enough.
Less with romance. So why is Roblox trying to turn into a dating platform? For those that don't know, Roblox tried to become a dating site. I showed this in
I
yesterday's
remember
video.
this. I just remember seeing about this. I didn't look into it because I just laughed about it.
Yeah,
I didn't.
first time I heard about this was whenever I saw this video this morning.
Yeah, I've seen it in the past for various reasons I won't get into, but yeah, I just laughed about it and moved on. I didn't put much stock into it, but I'm recalling information now. But go ahead.
Now, if you saw this in the past and you kind of shrugged it off, why what caused you to dismiss the idea back then?
I didn't. It was something I wasn't involved in. I just didn't. I've never played Roblox. I had no.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, you have no connection to
Yeah,
Roblox. Me neither.
no
I've never played
connection.
it.
Yeah.
I've avoided it just because of the even potential appearance of anything like that.
Yeah, well, it's the amount of, underage individuals who are on that game. I just don't. I'm not putting myself into that situation.
Right.
It's
It
not.
seems
I
unwise
don't
to do
enjoy playing games with children, for fuck's sakes. Nothing against them. I just don't enjoy playing, video games with them because of, reasons. But anyways,
that. Fair
but
enough.
But yeah, despite obviously wanting to protect kids, why was this allowed? Let's go a little bit further. But DICE is what is interesting to note, because that is relating to the ESRB, aka the rating system. Because Vance, dear leader of the ESRB, is on the board of DICE, the same DICE that had on Greg, who went on lamenting.
Yeah, I can skip those words. He's saying F Donald Trump, F Elon Musk, and it gets kind of into that. And then it kind of goes into more political aspect. I think we can avoid that. But the last piece that I kind of wanted to address on this, showing how it just got forced into that, Ro Khanna. I believe that's a California Democrat. Getting
I'm not familiar with this individual, but go ahead.
he's been making some very intuitive political decisions as far as getting engaged in the conversation. I believe one of them, he was one of the ones that put up one of the release the Hunter Biden files, but the wording was very poor whenever it was initially put in.
And which state?
I believe he's California.
Okay.
I believe so. I don't know for sure. I could look, but
Okay.
but yeah, he's on this. Why since when does this get so much political attention? The only overlap between all of these pieces is one thing. Do you feel the same way about that one thing that it is?
Children?
It's children.
Yeah. Which again goes into the projection thing. Every single it's the best way I can put it, and to kind of put some quantity or quantify what I'm trying to say here, is there was that I forget who it was. It was a congressman that was so just vehemently despised any kind of gay culture and was trying to, remove any kind of same-sex anything within the government, was then caught trying to solicit sex in a gas station bathroom, a truck stop bathroom.
I remember that story.
This reminds me of everything that is being done from these people, and the speed and everything else that is being done just reminds me of that so much that it's projection. If you start looking at what most people say in a negative term or trying to force some kind of ideology onto somebody else, it's projection, because they cannot come to terms with who they are, so they're blaming society, or they're trying to hide who they are from society.
I feel like we just have the next topic for next week.
So this is, man. Right, I mean, I'll just leave it at that. Go ahead, continue.
It's a lot to unpack.
Jesus Christ.
It's a lot to unpack,
Yeah.
man. Well, I mean, we've been at this for going on 3 hours. I feel like this would be a good spot to kind of wrap this part up here.
Okay.
So if you guys liked the content, please leave a like, follow, subscribe to myself, or more importantly, Brewer. And we're working on getting the accounts all together. We're figuring all that stuff out, and we'll go and end this section, and we'll move into talking to some of the stuff that was in chat, and we'll engage with you guys. But we won't include that as part of the YouTube release or the Spotify.
Yeah, especially
release.
some of the topics we were discussing here. may not
We
necessarily.
man, if this was a dartboard, bro, like, ooh, I think we've got some bullseyes, and I also think we hit the neighbor's house.
Yeah, and various because we just went off the rails in a few things. I was really trying not to, but
I mean, I think that it's important because those going off the rails things are probably thoughts and feelings that many other people share, or maybe we can't articulate them, or maybe there's someone that will hear this and they're like, oh, I want to go talk to those guys because they just want to engage in the conversation. They can bring something else to it.
yeah, I guess.
Yeah. All right. So let me go ahead and click off this screen.